and welcome to episode 197 of Flix and a Six, a weekly-ish podcast hosted by two, sometimes three cousins, where we have a beer and chat about all things, from hops to Krugers, all before diving deep into our flick of the week, where we celebrate our shared love of movies. I'm your host, Anthony Costanzo, joined, as always, by the immortal hop, Alessandro Bielsi. Say hello, Al.
Hello, Al.
Also joining us today, the Peanut Gallery, Dominic Bielsi. Say hello, Dominic.
I'm back, everyone. I missed you all.
I miss you too, buddy. It's been a minute. Now, this episode's going to be a little funky. I'm going to cut it up real nice. We're recording it out of order.
Would you
say
that you're going to slice and dice it?
I'm going to slice and dice. Chicken legs. I'm gonna, yes, cut this up. Dominic will be noticeably absent from a good chunk right after the beer.
And then he'll return.
And then he will return for the movie.
At a later date.
On this week's episode, They Must Be Stopped, the greatest headline ever, It's Morbin Time, Scrubs, Abrams' Boondoggle, Who Wants This? All before diving into our flick of the week, The Dark Knight Returns, Parts 1 and 2. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
Well, I was just slamming down the last couple sips of my C4. That being said, I'm going to reach over here to the beer. And we're drinking, all three of us have the same beer. It's a beer that's been waiting around for us for a while to get
a long time.
We have been unable to do so due to, pandemic and such.
Sure.
So this is from 1940's Brewing Company.
1940?
It's the oldest beer we've ever done. This one's called Just Tap It In. And despite Anthony's protests, we're doing this not when we're doing an episode on Happy Gilmore.
Unreal.
It does feature Happy Gilmore and the cast of characters, including Shooter McGavin. What the hell's Carl Weathers' name in this?
Chucks.
No. Chubbs Peterson or something like that,
yeah.
Right? The Alligator. And it's a New England style India Pale Ale. It's got Happy getting ready to tap it in with his hockey stick.
His hockey putter.
Putter, yeah. It's got notes of orange, lemon, lime, and tropical fruit, featuring Julius, Calypso, and Matuka hops. Oh, hey, look, it's the homeless caddy, too. It's taking place on a golf course. It's a delightful can. This is
it really is
can arts we've done in a while.
What I love about it is the actual photograph
of the golf course,
of a golf course with the superimposed, clearly cartoon characters printed
Cooper,
on
there's
top.
so many toys, buddy. You don't need to scratch at the toys.
But I need to discover every single individual new toy.
Sorry, we have dogs within arm's reach, so.
That's fair. I'm gonna. I encourage you to slide the microphone closer to Dominic, whose level is a little low.
I can't be as boisterous as my brother.
Sorry,
that's
my
understood.
Voice is unrivaled.
The unrivaled voice.
Dominic got so close to the microphone, he actually smacked it with his computer.
Amazing. That works. Shall we give this sucker a taste? I don't want it to get any older.
Oh wow, sure. Cheers.
I'm feeling a little left out, but no big deal.
That was the first real clink that the show has had in months and months.
Am I gonna get sick drinking this?
I mean, I doubt it.
All right. Here's the thing.
Okay. Go on.
There's a lot of good stuff in there, but it's crazy bitter, and there's a little bit of a funky taste to it.
It's very bitter, but I'm gonna guess that's just the beer.
Okay.
It's pretty bitter. I mean, I do taste the orange and the citrus flavor to it, but it is a little too overwhelmingly.
Tastes like chewing on an orange rind. That's
there's nothing wrong with this beer. Off with this beer. The only thing that really changes with an aging of beer is if there's a big dry hopping, if there's a lot of floral notes on the nose of a beer, that's what'll be suppressed more than anything else. Nothing else should really change.
It tastes of old age and
it does.
Sitting in the
old
for
socks.
too long.
Taste of despair.
Yeah, taste of despair.
It was the taste of betrayal. You fucking whore. It's good. I like it. I'm okay. I haven't had a decently bitter beer in a while, so I do kind of dig that. You know how I feel about orange in my beer. I'm all about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I will say there's a metallicness to it that I don't love, but I'm willing to I'm willing to bet that maybe that's just from it sitting around. I feel like that's not an intentional flavor profile that's in there.
I'm not actually getting the metallicness too much on this one.
Because mine is poisoned.
I have gotten that in IPAs before, but I don't think that that's necessarily a reflection of age. I've never heard of that associated with age before. Remember the one that we had that kind of had that was the Cricket Hill beer that we did?
Oh, God. Cricket Hill, that beer that tasted like dirt?
Well, we did 2 different ones from them, so I don't remember which one was the dirt one.
The pumpkin one.
We've done 3 different beers from them.
The pumpkin one had like a dirt taste to it. Didn't care for it.
Well, I mean, pumpkins grow in the dirt, so.
I feel like
they do, but they could wash the pumpkin before they put it in my beer.
I feel like this beer is of a bygone era of IPAs where everything just was bitter. I feel like it lacks a little bit of complexity, but overall, drinkable.
So it's the
I'm
most
with you on
basic
that.
of the beers, the way that Happy Gilmore was the most basic of golfers.
You could say that. I'm sorry. What did you say, Anthony?
I dig that explanation. I do remember. I remember a time back in my early career where every bar that you went to was only IPAs, and they all kind of tasted the same, and they were all fine.
Yeah, I mean, they just tried to go all in on the hop profile, but less. I feel like, honestly, IPAs don't have the same cultural zeitgeist as it did 5 to 10 years ago, but also, they taste even better now, I think, than they did then when they were the thing.
What happened was there was this runaway, arms race among breweries, 8 years ago, where everyone was just trying to out-hop and out-bitter the next IPA.
Yes.
And eventually that bubble burst, and everyone started going in different directions, which is why the latest trend has been, the amount of sours we've seen rise in the last, 3 to 5 years. Along with, kind of a rediscovery, re-emphasis of a lot of other different styles to differentiate the marketplace, because there's only so many times that you can just do, hey, here's another IPA. Even within the IPA space itself, the rise of the New England IPA, that wasn't a thing. This is definitely back to the old days of the West Coast IPA.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's going to be hard to deploy the mute button for 2 people.
Well, don't be concerned if Al gets COVID for the second time because of me.
Oh, no.
No, I don't actually have COVID. But, I've been dodging COVID kind of like, he's been dodging putting it in on the...
I thought you were going to say Chubbs dodged the...
No, because he did not succeed in that. Kind of like the ball is dodging going back to its home when he's trying to put it in.
Sure. Well, where do we stand vis-a-vis the thuckles?
Oh yeah, so we have we've gone a lot of different ways we went on a 1 to 5 scale. We went on a thumbs up and thumbs down scale, but we found out thumbs up and thumbs down wasn't enough. So we went to 2 thumbs up or 2 thumbs down, but then we subdivided that even more. So we've settled on for quite some time now with thumbs being digits but not fingers. There's 2 knuckles in the thumb.
Oh, and a thuckle, right?
1 thuckle.
That's right.
A maximum of 4 thuckles up or a maximum of 4 thuckles down.
Okay.
With 0 thuckles being in the dead middle. So how many thuckles would you give this?
I'd give this solid 2 thuckles.
I can try. I'll also give this 2 thuckles.
I'm going to go single thuckle.
Okay. That's fine. I was between 1 and 2 thuckles.
Just a single thuckle. But,
and Anthony yelled at me when I tried to do 1.5 thuckles recently.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, I will not stand for that bullshit. It's not allowed. Our rating system is pure, and I will not have you bastardize it.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing more pure than thuckles. We have to come up with a word for it.
In all fairness, and I think we've established there has not been a 0 or negative or thuckle down situation yet.
No,
right?
didn't we do a 0 thuckle recently? That was the first time that we...
Oh, right, because then we were rediscussing the scale at that moment.
Yeah, because we hadn't deployed the negative thuckle, and we kind of forgot that was an option.
Yeah. Because
we had a pretty good run of beers.
Should we be, after all this, I'm now concerned. Should we have been reviewing the movies in thuckles as well?
Didn't I ask you if we should marry the scales together? And I think you said no, because we're doing one thing and the other another thing.
I think I'd be on board with changing towards a thuckle system.
It's going to make me putting
Well, you know what it is?
It's a lot more difficult.
The problem is the 4 thuckles up seems like a more achievable goal than a 10.
Yes.
Because sometimes I want to give a movie 2 thumbs up, but it's not a 10. You know what I'm saying?
Could you imagine if Siskel and Ebert gave it 4 thuckles up?
4 thuckles. Wait a minute. Does the movie scale include toes?
Oh, God.
The math on that would be too overwhelming.
Is each thuckle a half a point?
Well, technically they're not thumb toes, right? They're colloquially known as the big toe or the great toe, I believe. So,
would it be called a tuckle?
I thought it was this piggy.
For this little piggies.
I give this 4 little piggies. Not the one with roast beef. Why did one of them have roast beef?
I don't know. Is this getting into like was it the Babes in Toyland like situation here where it's
I don't know, man.
Pig nor pork, it's beef.
Gross. All right. I'm glad we finally have this beer out of my fridge. I'm not like super thrilled about the drinking of the beer. Was that a door? That was a door. The door is behind you.
There's a door behind me. You could have clearly seen someone exiting.
I didn't. I just saw the door slightly move after the noise, and I was a little concerned, and then realized Dominic was no longer sitting there.
Yeah, Dexter wanted to go out, so.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're really not ready to transition, is what you're telling me, into movie talk. That's fine.
We're just vamping. It's fine.
That's fine.
How are you?
I'm good. You
better? You feeling a little better? The whole family
No, I feel like a little better, but not all the way. And that's too long to not be feeling well.
More importantly, how's Elliot?
He's great. Except today he was a little bit of a nut job. But he's great. No longer sick.
Is he still enjoying his block?
He enjoys the blocks.
His cups?
His cups? He points at everything. And it's kind of hilarious. And
we've just been watching this happen right now in the background with Cooper, who's just pointing his nose at all of the toys, and we can't figure out which one, which is why he keeps scratching at the toys.
Nice. And he just, he goes, ah, as he points at things as if it's the first time that he's seen them and he's discovering something. Ah. It's kind of wonderful. He's also holds on with one hand to whoever is nearby and walks around, which is amazing.
Well, that's pretty adorable.
Yeah, he's
so he's walking fast. Unassisted now?
No, assisted. Okay. One hand. A one-hand assist.
Well, I didn't know if that was a choice or a requirement.
It's more of a choice on his part. I feel like he could do it. If you distract him, he can take a few steps without realizing he's let go.
Is this like when you're trying to transition from training wheels to two-wheel bike? And you just gotta trick him. You're just not ready to take them off yet?
Yeah, I definitely did that earlier today where I have like a large stirring spoon for a pot, and I was holding one end of that and having him hold the other end so that he thought he had the stability, and as he was walking, I just let go. And he was just waving the spoon in the air, thinking that he still had the support.
I thought you were going to say, like, you dipped your finger in, like, olive oil or butter, and, like, as you were walking with him, you just yanked your finger out of his hand, and he didn't even realize it was gone because you slid out so effortlessly.
It's magic. That's exactly it. It's great, though. That's great. He is a hysterical human being. What do you say we get into some news and nuggets?
Sure, hang on 1 second.
Oh, nice. What did you open?
Sorry, so I know we're not doing consumption right now, but I'm drinking a Citizen Cider. Have you ever had Citizen Cider?
I'm not sure.
They're probably my favorite hard cider. It's from Vermont, and I think it's like United Press or whatever. I think is the main the flagship one. Really good apple cider, but they do a whole bunch of other like experimental ones. There's like a lemon ginger one. There's a whole bunch of other like different ones. And this is the Americran.
Okay.
It's proud to be an Americran. It's a cider co-fermented with cranberries.
That's pretty cool.
And it's all locally sourced apples and cranberries from the Vermont cranberry.
I think the best / my favorite cider that I've had was the Down East Winter Cider.
Interesting.
Very good stuff. So they must be stopped.
Okay. So I want to bring a phenomenon to your attention.
Oh boy!
You see, what had happened was I was scrolling through Twitter and I got a promoted ad, which happens pretty frequently as you're scrolling through the timeline and all.
Sure.
And I saw something that truly upset me. I didn't click through the tweet. I went separately to a browser to just look up on the website what this is all about. So I don't know if you've seen this yet or not, but Kingsford Charcoal has a line of charcoals that are flavored. Now, when I say that, I don't mean like a specific type of wood. Like, I'm looking on their website here. They have cherry wood. They have like hickory, hardwood. That's all fine. You want to do a particular type of wood that's going to infuse a certain type of smoke in there, whatever. That's cool. I'm for it. If that's what you want to go for, that's cool.
Oh, no.
But they have a line of them, including basil, sage, thyme, cumin, chili, and garlic, onion, paprika.
Mm-hmm.
No. If you want your meat to taste like whatever, go buy the fucking spices, sprinkle it on the food that you're going to cook.
Surely it would be cheaper and easier than this.
Yeah, well, sorry. I guess it's quote-unquote easier. Just grab this bag of charcoal, throw it on the grill, and light it on fire. But it ain't going to taste as good, and I am extremely skeptical of...
Well, hang on. You haven't tried it yet.
I haven't.
So, it may not taste as good. But what if your end goal is not to flavor your meats, but to have your backyard smell like garlic?
Listen, if you're being hunted by vampires, then I will give you special dispensation
guy.
to use that one specific one. But other than that, this is asinine.
Fair enough. No, this does seem ridiculous. I agree. Season your meat. Better yet, season your meat the night before. Let it marinate.
So I've never tried doing that overnight with just like a quote-unquote dry rub.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it with, obviously, like liquid marinades.
Yeah, overnight with a dry rub, it'll really seep in.
Okay. I mean, I've certainly done it hours in advance, but I don't think I've ever done it, other than maybe like a turkey or something.
Mm.
But everything else, it's been like a marinade. It's been in some sort of liquid overnight.
A turkey? A turkey? A turkey and a turkey and a turkey?
Oh. Like a turducken, but it's just 3 turkeys?
Yeah.
It's like a Russian nesting doll.
Of turkeys.
Matt Turkieshka doll?
Amazing.
So that's all I have on that one.
What's the greatest headline ever?
Okay. We're going to power through them here. That's good. I got to find it here. Sorry, I have too many tabs open. Alan Cummings' missing co-star chimp found alive after owner fakes his death. This is from a couple weeks ago on Rolling Stone. The subheading is, "This is the bizarre saga involving Tonka the chimpanzee, PETA, and a protective owner takes another surreal twist."
Oh my God.
By Cheyenne Roundtree. Last May, Tonka the chimpanzee, an elderly ape who starred in George of the Jungle and Buddy alongside actor...
get down, George of the Jungle.
In 1997, died, according to records.
Aww.
The chimp had recently suffered a stroke and died from heart failure, his owner, Tanya Haddix, claimed, submitting a declaration in court documents to a Missouri judge that detailed how the animal's body was burned in a fire pit. But this week, Tonka was found alive, secretly hidden away for the past year in Haddix's Sunrise Beach, Missouri home, where he reportedly had a 60-inch television, an interactive iPad-like touch device, and had celebrated St. Patrick's Day among a few of Haddix's close friends.
Oh my God.
Oh, hang on a second. I clicked to... Come on. You can do it. Here we go. On Thursday, authorities searched her home as part of an emergency court order obtained by PETA, whom Haddix had been locked in a legal battle with since 2018. Faking Tonka's death was a last-ditch effort by Haddix to keep her beloved chimp after a judge ordered her to turn over Tonka and 6 other chimpanzees to the Center for Great Apes Sanctuary in Wauchula, Florida. The organization claims that when Tonka was found, he was being kept in a small cage nailed to the floor of Haddix. He was overweight, wasn't allowed outside, and had no companionship with the other chimpanzees. Something that's crucial for chimps, according to the to the animal rights group.
What's this? Sorry, what was the chimpanzee in with Alan Cumming?
Buddy, in 1997. I don't know.
Okay, gotcha. That's a cute chimp.
What's that?
That's a cute chimpanzee.
Yeah. Haddix was finally busted by a recording of a phone call that PETA said it had received where the exotic animal breeder, quote, confessed that Tonka was still alive but would be euthanized on June 2nd.
Tonka. That's what a bizarre headline.
Also, this woman apparently went with the, I forget the character's name, but the character from Arrested Development when his defense was almost definitely after burning down the banana stand. She was...
what the heck? I actually just watched that episode, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Kim and I are watching Arrested Development.
I think my mom's watching through it right now as she's currently displaced and only has access to Netflix for some reason. With officials still on her property as of Friday, she admitted to Rolling Stone that she had lied about Tonka's death, saying he's been with her the whole time. Quote, oh, absolutely 100% in my house, yes.
Did you burn down the banana stand? Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, the storage unit. Did you burn down the storage unit?
And despite potentially being found in contempt of court for lying under oath, Haddix laughs. Quote, honey, I've been held in contempt of court 3 times. I've paid $50 a day in fines. I've been through the bill. I'm sure that there'll be some jail time in this. Do I care? No, I don't care. It's because it's about that kid. As long as that kid is safe, I don't care about nothing out there.
Oh, how bizarre.
And down here there's a picture of a young Alan coming with a young chimp.
Gotta save the chimps. Okay. You're just coming in hot with these ridiculous stories, so might as well keep the train rolling with It's Morbin Time.
Oh, boy. Now, did you hear about Morbin Time?
No.
Oh, man, you missed out. So, there has been... Technically, this started quite some time ago. It might have even been before Morbius released, officially, but it got new life with the lead up to the release of the movie and its release, and then subsequent...
re-release.
Coming re-release on streaming or whatever. Hang on a second. My computer just unplugged the power supply. Anyway, there was this weird grassroots campaign on the internet featured around this joke of a hashtag, It's Morbin Time, in which they were making fun of, shitty taglines from action movies and stuff like that.
Mm.
And so there was this joke about how the meme kind of grew into this joke about how Sony was eventually going to take this to make a second Morbius 2, It's Morbin Time.
Oh my god.
And so Jared Leto decided to get involved in the fun, and he participated in the Morbin Time memeing. And there was a tweet from his account saying, what time is it? And it's him reading a script. And someone comes over and asks him what he's reading, and on the top of the top page it says, Morbius 2, It's Morbin Time. Obviously, it's a fake script.
Sure.
The postscript to this story, not including that script or whatever, is that Sony also decided to re-release it in theaters for a weekend because so many people were tweeting about it. And the
why not cash in?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to read this story from Forbes, if these pop-ups will allow me to. In domestic holdover news, not really Top Gun Maverick, Walt Disney's Doctor Strange and Multiverse Madness made a lot of money, etc., so on. I'm going to skip past that. Let's get to the Morbin Time. Where is this? Here we go. Sony reissued Morbius into 1,037 theaters in weekend 10. The poorly reviewed and poorly received C+ from CinemaScore and a 1.89 time multiplier means audiences didn't like it either. Jared Leto's superhero movie earned another $85,000 on Friday for a $280,000 weekend, and still lousy $73.6 million domestic cume. Its $270 per theater average is the lowest in the top 20.
Oh my god.
The online mockery and memes don't mean a damn thing in terms of general audience interest. It's well past time the media stopped treating this foolishness as anything other than amusing but irrelevant comedy. That's to say nothing of the treatment That's to say nothing of treating random racist bitching about Ghostbusters, Star Wars, Marvel, Doctor Who, Percy Jackson, etc., as even a partial representative of the general consumer consensus. He was hoping Sony was merely playing along. I don't remember reading that part of this last time around. It made me crack up.
I dig that.
But the final tally of this is that fun Morbin Time re-release of the movie for that weekend resulted in an additional $280,000. I think they easily lost
more money,
$100 million on this movie overall.
Yeah,
and their efforts of $270 per screen.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's 30 people. Well, 30 people under old ticket scale. I mean, I don't know what it is now. It's probably
27 people.
10 or 15 people. Like, you know.
Oh, man. That's brutal. That's brutal.
It is out there, though. We may finally have to bite the bullet and do it after 42 questions or 44 questions, whatever it was.
Absolutely.
It's on Showtime now, I think, or Stars, one of those.
All right, I was going to say, I want to. I'm so curious. I definitely want to watch it.
We could do a double feature with the Secrets of Dumbledore, 2 of the worst movies that have come out in quite some time. That was what we were supposed to do this week, but obviously the schedule's lined up with me currently displaced and living with Dominic for this week for us to do this episode at his request. And so me and Anthony will return to our previously scheduled Secrets of Dumbledore next week, probably, I guess, right?
Yeah, unless I watch Doctor Strange beforehand, we could keep pushing Dumbledore out.
No, we got to talk about the movie, and I want to talk about it before I forget about it, and I refuse to watch it again for the show. I think we can talk about it at any point in time, and you wouldn't need to watch it again. It's probably true. I really don't remember what. See, here's the thing. Mm-hmm. Nothing happened to them.
Right. No, we're not doing that here. We're not doing that here.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to derail us that way. That's
Scrubs.
For the episode.
What's going on with Scrubs?
So, tab. God, fuck. This is on Variety. Scrubs cast and creator Bill Lawrence want a revival or movie. Quote, "We're gonna do it because we're lucky enough people care."
Cool.
The Scrubs family is back together on Sunday, and this was like 2 or 3 weeks ago now. Mm-hmm. ATX TV Festival hosted an energy-filled reunion panel with the cast of the medical comedy drama, which aired from 2001 to 2010, first on NBC and later on ABC. Creator and showrunner Bill Lawrence, who also one of the creators of Ted Lasso, along with cast members Zach Braff, Donald Faison, Sarah Chalk, John C. McGinley, Judy Reyes, and Neil Flynn, gathered for a conversation hosted by Variety TV editor Michael Schneider. First, the group spoke about, quote, fake doctors, real friends with Zach and Donald. Sorry, that's not a quote. That's the name of the podcast. The podcast hosted by Braff and Faison. Quote, "Because of that podcast, my kids started watching Scrubs," Reyes said, joking that her children never bring up any of her epic scenes, but do enjoy the rest of the cast's work. Later, Sarah Chalk revealed she was stuck in an elevator in Austin the other day and FaceTimed Braff and Faison. "I started pushing the buttons," she said. "I really needed to calm down. I did not understand I was claustrophobic until that moment." In order to calm down, she put back on the podcast she was listening to, Dak Shepard's podcast, Armchair Expert. Zach was like, "You were listening to my doppelganger's podcast?" Which that's a running joke that yep. Zach and Dak say that they look a lot alike, or people tell them that they look a lot alike at least. Braff then quipped, "Of all fucking podcasts in the world, you were listening to my doppelganger's podcast." During a game at the end of the panel, the group was asked who wants to do a reboot of sorts, and they all agreed they want to do it, but Lawrence is so busy. "I think we all want it. We all would love to work together again. It's just that it's really hard," Faison said. "It can't be a full season of a show. It would have to be a movie or something like that where you could only give a couple of months to it. Everyone's doing things." He then motioned to the creator and added, "This dude's never going to be free again." Braff compared the project to E.T., noting that E.T. would only do E.T. 2 if Steven Spielberg was. However, Lawrence is "We're going to do it because we're lucky enough that people care. Top to bottom, we enjoy spending time with each other. If you ever have an excuse to work with people that you'd want to spend time with anyways, run to it. It's worth it to me to see Neil back in that jumpsuit again." Sternly, Flynn responded, "It's not a jumpsuit, it's a shirt and pants."
That's awesome. I would really it would encourage me to continue on and finish the series because I really do enjoy it. It's so good.
I always viewed that as a show that once you kind of stepped away and picked it back up and stepped away and picked it up, you're going to finish the show. It's just a question of when.
Yeah, that's cool. I hope they do that. And I know Kim has listened to a handful of episodes of their show, the podcast that they do, which is kind of cool. And I like that idea of going through episode by episode. I think I'm in the perfect time.
There's different shows that have done that now, right? There's that one. There was the one that Michael Imperioli and I forget the guy that Steve Sherpa did for The Sopranos. There's
a New Girl one going around.
There's a handful of other ones.
Yeah, but that's cool. This is probably a perfect time for me to actually get back into it because all of our other shows have pretty much come to an end.
That's the time to do it when you have that show hole.
Yep. Sweet. What is Abrams' Boondoggle? Also, I hate that sentence or that phrase.
Yeah, it's not great, but it was appropriate. This was on Tech Radar from a couple weeks ago. HBO just canceled J.J. Abrams' huge sci-fi project. HBO has pulled the plug on Demimon, the new big-budget sci-fi drama from director J.J. Abrams. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Demimon, which was due to be Abrams' first solo creation for television since his original hit Alias, has now been pulled from production by HBO Chief Content Officer Casey Bloys. The reason for HBO's decision has been put down to spiraling costs, which had seen the planned budget for the first season to climb over $200 million.
Yo!
And given that the studio has spent less than that on the entire run of the new Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon, the broadcasting giant balked at the cost.
Oh my god.
Abrams is now free to take the project elsewhere, expected to begin talks with streaming services in an attempt to resurrect it. The show was sold in 2018. HBO outbid Apple for the rights, so you'd imagine that the latter may well be his first port of call. What was Demimon going to be about? Well, there are conflicting reports, but we were set to be in classic science fiction territory. HBO summary of the show only listed as an epic and intimate sci-fi fantasy drama, while Deadline reports that the series was to be built around Olive Reed, who is torn away from her husband and daughter in a brutal scientific. She's forced to unravel a conspiracy to reunite with her family, now lost to a dark, distant. It's a bit of a change from the show's original description given to The Hollywood Reporter back in 2018, which said it would follow a family consisting of a mother who works as a scientist, her husband, and their young daughter, who all get into a terrible car crash. After the mother winds up in a coma, her daughter begins digging through her experiments in the basement and winds up being transported to another world amid a battle against a monstrous oppressor. Her father then follows her. Either way, Danielle Deadweiler, star of Netflix's The Harder They Fall and HBO's dystopian drama Station 11, was due to lead the way as Reed, with no other cast members on board yet. I never know, unless Abrams can find a buyer. He has made over $7 billion at the box office, so you'd imagine he might be worth it.
Someone will pick it up, I'm sure.
Probably. I haven't followed up. I know there had been a couple of days after this some sort of follow-up to it, but nothing official about anyone picking up the rights to it. So
Weird. I didn't even know that was happening. So
yeah, I vaguely remember a couple of years ago when it was announced, but I wasn't familiar with the property, so I kind of just filed it away as whenever they put out a trailer, we'll see what that's all about.
Yeah. What is this last one is titled "Who Wants This?"
Okay. Well, unfortunately, after I had pushed this one to my notes, you had actually spoiled it for us, but that's fine because now you'll be prepared to talk about it. Joker 2 will be a musical with Lady Gaga and early talks about Harley Quinn. Who wants this? As soon as I saw that was a thing, I was like, hang on a second, we're past April, right? This isn't a joke.
Yeah.
Who wants this?
I don't know, man. The thing is, Joker should not have a sequel. It's an interesting, artsy experiment, and that should be it.
Yeah, it was totally fine as a one-shot.
Yeah. I don't know what this is, and I don't...
I mean, they obviously teased where you could go with a sequel, and right off the bat, considering how financially and commercially and critically successful it was, you understand why the temptation's there to do a sequel. But to me, it was already pretty fragile. I hated the concept of that movie. It ended up being fine. I didn't like it as much as you, but it was fine. I thought he was really good, but beyond that, it was just fine. The further you push this property, the more...
I'm very much not. As much as I enjoyed that movie and thought that it was well structured and well done, I'm not on board with this. Not even a little bit.
And I mean, a musical? Come on.
I'm on board with the musicals. I'm just not on board with continuing this. Everything about the old
musicals generally. I mean, this specific property being a musical.
No, none of that. Everything, anything that is not the Batman is done. Stop. Just stop.
Well, the argument they're probably making is because this is existing outside of the DCEU, that's probably fine to chase, right? Because all of their failures have been really tied up to the DCEU stuff.
I think that I don't think it is fine to chase because it cheapens the properties.
Oh, I'm not agreeing. I'm saying that would probably be their argument. Considering the Batman was good and it's existing outside of that, this was good. It was successful. People liked it. And again, also outside of that whole thing, much closer, really, the aesthetic, certainly closer to the Batman everything else. So.
From the title card to the stylistic shooting of the movies, yeah, I agree. But still no. Still don't want this.
I mean, you don't know what this is. You could still definitely. I mean, I would have no objection to if you insist on making this movie and telling the story, having a sequence that was musical, right? Like that certainly plays in.
Surely that's what it is, right?
So, I'll read the beginning of the story. I don't know if there's been follow up on it because this was from a couple weeks ago. Just a week ago, Todd Phillips announced on social media that he's reuniting with Joaquin Phoenix to start work on Joker 2. Now the details on the sequel are getting a little more interesting. Joker, Folie à Deux, will be a musical, and Lady Gaga is in early talks to star as Harley Quinn, according to The Hollywood Reporter. According to the story, Gaga would be set to play a very different version of Harley from the current DC Universe incarnation played by Margot Robbie, to fit the general format of the original movie, which also casts Phoenix as the Joker inside his, separate from DC's other movies. Neither Phoenix nor Gaga have closed deals to make the movie yet, The Hollywood Reporter says. Phillips and Gaga have also worked together before. Phillips served as a producer on A Star is Born, which Gaga starred alongside Bradley Cooper, who in turn produced Joker. With the move to make Joker 2 a musical, it seems fitting that Phillips would turn to a slightly eccentric star with more musical talent than just about anyone to fill the role of Harley.
We'll see. I'm sure I'll watch it, but I just don't think it's... It just makes you go, which I don't want to feel that way about something upcoming, and I don't want to, sure it's somebody's passion to work on it, but it's just...
This stuff shouldn't be a chore.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like. It feels like a chore. Well, that's it for your absolutely ridiculous set of news and nuggets. Let's move on to consumption.
Gladly.
I've definitely been consuming some interesting things, but where would you like to start?
So was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago? It might have been 2 weekends ago. Who cares? I saw Jurassic World Dominion.
Oh, nice. Any good?
I liked it.
Nice.
I think it was my favorite of this 3-part series.
Did they spare any expense?
Not really, no. There's
Nice.
some big stuff going on.
Nice. So I like to hear.
I will say, without spoiling anything, whatever you thought from the promotional material, not at all what the movie's about. And I actually appreciated that. What
Dig that.
Was a bit of a surprise.
Love that.
I mean, certainly the whole thing about grappling with humanity and dinosaurs coexisting and all that.
Yeah, the Jurassic Park thing. Yeah.
Well, but also that they're more in the wild now,
Mm-hmm.
and integrating into society or not integrating into society. But that's not really what the movie's about, actually. And they've kept that really tightly under wraps. I didn't see any allusion to what it's actually about in any of the promotional material. Maybe, a lot of times after a movie releases, they've recut a trailer and they start adding shit in. I didn't see any of that, but also I wasn't going to be looking for trailers once I'd seen the movie. So, and I saw it on opening weekend, so I enjoyed it. It was a solid movie.
That's exciting.
Great. It was a good, solid movie. I enjoyed it. The thing I appreciated was I thought they did a really good job of balancing the new cast with the old cast.
Listen, this is the perfect movie for me to get an oversized, disgusting amount of popcorn,
which I did,
and a soda, and sit and watch. Just a fun dinosaur flick.
Yeah,
Dino flick. Love it. I'm all in. I'm excited to see that one. I've been enjoying the newer series as well as, enjoying the original. So I'm pumped for that. Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. As I mentioned earlier, which may be later, depending on when I mentioned it, because this show is being recorded out of order, and watching...
There's so many podcasts that record shit out of order, and they cut it back together, and they do a great job of seamlessly doing it where you can't tell, whereas we're fully leaning into the fact that this is going to be all fucked up from the order of things that we recorded.
That's right. I'm watching Arrested Development. Kim has never seen it, and
really?
we started it from the beginning, and I thought... first off, I love this show, but... More importantly, Carl Weathers is on the can of the beer that we drank today, which is very important because, why are you throwing that bone out? There's still some meat left on that bone. You take that bone, throw in some water, bring it to a boil, add a couple of vegetables, you got yourself a stew going, baby.
It's a baby good stew.
Oh, man. I think I would like my $1,000 back. That show is fantastic and
Yes.
definitely holds up.
Yeah, incredibly well.
It's so funny. We just finished the Hermano episode, and I to this day it's one of my most. It's like my favorite miscommunications in television.
Yes,
and
I think you and my mom are literally at the same spot right now because she was talking about who played Marta at dinner tonight.
I think it was really amazing to me in the scene where Buster reveals that Hermano means brother. Job is like, oh, but who's? It's so stupid. I have the worst attorneys.
I have the worst fucking attorneys.
It's really there were so many quotable lines and there were so many ridiculous scenarios that they set up, and the callbacks to jokes from earlier in the series and earlier in the season or even the episode, wherever you are, like it's just so well executed. It's one of the like most artfully and like intentionally crafted storylines, I feel like.
It's one of the most attention to detail oriented shows I've ever seen, where sometimes they really point out the big thing that's going on or the little thing that's going on that's tying back to something earlier in the episode, earlier in the season, early in the series. And sometimes they just do it and move right past it, and it's up to you to remember.
Yeah.
If you don't, that's a you problem.
Yeah, like there was one line, it was like, we just gotta get you in the room for 10 minutes, act like a good, loving family, and that'll be that. Can we get that down to 5? I'll see what I can do. And then later on in the episode, at the very end, Michael's like, it's gonna be no big deal. We get together for what, 6 minutes? 10. Couldn't get that down, huh? Oh, I love it. It's so funny. But yeah, very much enjoying that. And Kim has been into it too, which has been a treat.
That's good.
What do you got?
She can stay.
She can stay.
So I watched a relatively new movie this past weekend.
Ooh.
It was a movie I had heard of. It was a movie I knew nothing about. It was a movie I forgot about until I saw recently added to HBO Max. I was scrolling through looking for something to watch last weekend. And it was a 2021 movie called, I think it was The Card Counter, starring Oscar Isaac.
Oh, weird. I saw that scroll by too, and I was like, I kind of want to watch that.
Okay, so I was like, looked it up, and it's Oscar Isaac plays a military vet who takes a younger man under his wing to try and, someone who's headed down the wrong path, he tries to give him a different alternative to life, like a better path than what he was pursuing, which does not remotely describe what that movie is about.
Mm-hmm.
Good, solid movie. Really in-depth card stuff. It's part Rounders, part 21.
Oh, fun.
Fun is not a word I would use to describe this movie. It is super dark.
Oh, no.
I don't know if you want me to tell you what that movie is actually about or not, because
I don't know. I feel like I always just want to watch it.
I don't know if Kim's going to like this one.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was a solid movie. It's a tough watch, though. Like, there's some stuff that's fun in it. There's some really enjoyable stuff. There's some cool, like, drama-filled stuff. But I guess I'll just put it this way. The central plot of... Well, first of all, they kick off pretty early on and tell you that Oscar Isaac's character has just gotten out of jail. Prison, more appropriately, I guess. It takes a while to tell you what he was in prison for. He was one of the soldiers at Abu Ghraib.
Okay.
And you find out that some of the other characters involved also have connections to that whole thing, and what seemed like a bunch of random, unconnected people turns out to be kind of a web of people that you didn't really anticipate, and there's like a lot of scenes and sequences detailing some of the stuff that was going on, and the ripples and after effects that has on the people who were involved.
I feel very misled by part Rounders, part 21.
Yeah, well, no, because half of the movie is that, but the other half of the movie is dealing with the psychological trauma and real trauma of people being in or perpetrating the horrific crimes at Abu Ghraib. So,
all right. I'll probably check that out.
Solid watch, tough. It's a short movie, so but you might wear that one a bit.
Okay.
It's worth a watch. It's good, but I was not prepared for what that movie was about.
You're not prepared. I'm not prepared.
No.
Pulls out jazz flute from...
Yeah, no. There was no jazz flute.
Yes, flute. Sweet. I've been playing a couple of games. I've been pretty much on a weekly basis. I find myself with like maybe 30 minutes to an hour of some Halo matchmaking with some friends from work or whoever's available online to play. And I've been thoroughly enjoying playing Fiesta in Halo Infinite.
Which I joined you for one round.
One round, yeah. But it's a treat. It's a really fun match, and I've played a little bit of that, and I also played a little bit of a Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which was fantastic and a tremendous homage to the original beat 'em up Turtles games.
Nice,
really good.
That's good. We finished last night. We finished Halo 3.
Nice.
And we jumped into a little Halo 3 ODST. Had a good time with that. I finally finished up weeks ago my Mass Effect Andromeda campaign.
Nice.
Dove back into the Legendary Edition campaign I had started. Still pretty early in the first Mass Effect on that one. I also would like to, with some time freeing up in my schedule, jump back and forth between that and Guardians of the Galaxy, which I told you I'd gotten a few weeks ago.
Nice.
Haven't started that yet, though. So I'd like to really sit down and give that a good hour and a half to start it off with. So
yeah, nice. That's fun. Good stuff. I only have one more consumption, and on Father's Day, Kim had gotten me tickets to see John Mulaney's From Scratch tour, which was amazing. He is still so good. Slightly different. Demeanor's a little different. The cadence is a little bit different, but still very much his John Mulaney DNA storytelling. It's just amazing. Very heartfelt moments in the set, as well as great jokes and execution. It's just it basically is the entire telling of him going to rehab and coming out, and jokes along the way, and I like other jokes along the way, but it's very funny, and he does a really great job. And he closed the show with this really funny reading of an interview that he did not remember, which is just great.
Yeah, I've been wondering how his return to stand up was going to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of all that.
I don't care about anything that's going on with him aside from he remains to be my favorite comedian. I think that
that's great, and of all of the misdeeds of the many comedians in recent years, his is pretty low on the spectrum of those things. I don't even mean it in that. I just meant, like, does he still have his fastball? Is his material still going to be good?
Yes.
Does this throw into question all the other stand-ups he did in which he had, like, claimed he wasn't on drugs in those time? Like, so you're saying his cadence and demeanor is very different in this one?
Yeah, he actually came out on stage. He's like, you probably used to see me come out like, hey, how you doing? But you might see that my temperament has changed a little bit. I wonder what that's about.
So, like, it does, I think, cast into doubt some of his claims as to how sober he was in the past at times and all.
Yeah,
which is not a big deal. It's just worth investigating.
Well, here's the thing that I would throw out there is that, like, in some of the earlier stuff when he was saying that, I do think that he may have been sober, but the last time that I saw him, and one of the more recent times I've seen him on TV before he went into rehab.
I know you told.
It was an SNL before he went in. I was like,
yeah,
that's weird. Something seems off. A couple of ticks there that are not usual for him, and sure enough, we come to find that he's ripping lines. Just so
all the stuff with his wife and his family and his new family, like, that's all for everyone else to judge. That's not, like, worthy of, like, a mass canceling in any way, shape, or form. Nope. That's a case by case how you feel about it and all. And I don't follow any stand-up comedian in that sort of way where it really impacts me in that way. It's just never been my forte. Like, I enjoy a good stand-up as much as the next person. I never have gotten into that culture in depth the way a lot of people have.
Yeah. But it was a very enjoyable show. Loved it. It was in Red Bank, New Jersey. So, surprise guest opener, Jon Stewart, for 30 minutes.
Oh, interesting.
Which was awesome. His material was just fantastic.
He's been pulling out all the stops, because I know on this tour, like, he had Chappelle at some of his shows or whatever.
That's cool.
Jon Stewart, like, that's he got some heavy hitters to open for him.
Yeah.
Return. So
yeah, that's good stuff. What else are you consuming?
So go with another quick one. I finished book 4 of the Witcher series, A Time of Contempt, and have gotten a nice chunk of the 5th book, Baptism of Fire, behind me here. It's still really enjoying the series. It's been
nice.
Good. They've, like I said, they've changed the narrative structure starting with book 3 to be much more like linearly structured and everything, which is probably for the best overall, especially for trying to tell like an epic scale story. It's hard to do that in vignettes that aren't really connected to each other long term. I still like a little bit vaguely perturbed by the chapter structure in the sense that like each book has like 10 chapters and they probably could do with 22 to 25 of them. Just like when you totally change from one perspective to another for 45 minutes listening. No, not mid-sentence, but it's like if you're listening and it's like this chapter is 1 hour and 30 minutes long, it's like, okay, once I've listened to that chapter and it's tackled 4 different perspectives, it's like that could have been 4 chapters.
Yeah.
Not that it matters, it's really just an accounting purpose, but it can be a little jarring where it's like they finish a scene and there's like a slight pause and they just pick up with someone entirely different in a different place and time, and it's like you could just have a chapter break there. Like I don't understand. Not a big deal, it's a very minor gripe. I have encountered one of my favorite names of a character in the series. It's Marshall Windbag, and it's a foul-mouthed parrot that rides along with the group at some point.
Amazing. Is Yaskir a character in the books?
So that character exists. He goes by a different name. It's Dandel.
Okay.
But it's basically the same.
Cool. Also,
him and Geralt are much closer in the books than they are in the show. Not that they don't butt heads occasionally, but it's much more obvious that Geralt genuinely has affection for him in the books, whereas in the show, there's sometimes where I'm honestly surprised he hasn't killed him.
Yeah.
Just to get him out of his hair.
Yeah.
There is definitely much more overt friendship between the two of them, even though they do end up at odds a couple of times, but they always end up making up and getting back together. It doesn't feel like it's a chore for Geralt to have him around most of the time.
Yeah.
I will say they pretty substantially changed a lot of the stuff from the books to the shows, although they definitely collected and redistributed a lot of the character and plot points. And the very 50,000-foot view is basically the same. And some of the stuff, especially earlier on in the transition from book 2 to 3, some of that's pretty similar, but there are some of these things that are pretty wildly different, like the intrigue amongst the courts of the kingdoms that are not Nilfgaardian, as well as the intrigues within the chapter of mages. That is much more in depth and also just much more overt in what's going on, in a way that feels like it takes a back seat in the show.
Gotcha.
But there's still enough similarities where it's still similar stories, obviously, similar gist to it, but
sure,
wildly different. I still enjoy both of them, but they're even significantly much more divergent than the Game of Thrones books and shows, which starts as an incredibly faithful adaptation that strays from the path, whereas this is more okay, we're gonna start at the same starting point and take the first few steps, but after that we're gonna totally jumble up all these things together into a story.
Yeah, interesting. That's cool though. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Any other consumption?
Yeah, I haven't watched it in about a week or so. I got another good chunk of Severance done. I only have a couple episodes left.
Nice.
I think the last one I watched, I want to say, was the one where the two groups started to meet and work together to figure out what
cool.
Lumen's all about.
Yep.
As well as there's some cracks breaking in the facade of the administration there. And the storyline outside on the upstairs group, or the outsiders, whatever, the outies, that whole storyline is starting to take shape a little bit, because for a while there I was wondering what that was all ultimately going to lead to.
Yeah.
As we see, totally forgot the name of the character, the head of the Severance group. She's getting involved. She's getting her fingers dug into their lives outside of the company, which they have no idea about.
So twisted.
Mark's sister is starting to investigate what the deal is with this congressman or whatever it is, and I gotta say, her husband's book is some of the douchiest material ever committed to the page. The thing is, it's so bad, but somehow kind of gets to the right ideas.
Yep.
The analogies are terrible.
Uh-huh.
The verbiage is so beyond douchey, and yet somehow he's still kind of sort of getting it right.
Yeah, that's the best part. It's like totally, oh my accident. God, dude. But yeah.
There was one of the like metaphors he sets up that I'm like, how? What? How?
Oh man, that's funny.
But I've really been enjoying the show. I just it's been crazy the last couple of weeks, and both just like watching stuff and like having other stuff to do outside of my consumption, like actual life stuff between work and the fact that I'm displaced this week and everything else. But the basketball and hockey playoffs were so good. I've been watching a lot of that.
Nice.
But basketball's done. Hockey will be done within the next week. So my viewing schedule will be much more opened up at that point. So I'm definitely looking forward to finishing that up, picking up the threads of some of the other things I'd started and haven't been able to finish, like Halo and Barry and all that stuff, because I know the season finale of Barry was a week or two ago. And obviously we have Better Call Saul coming back in a couple of weeks.
And you have to finish Obi-Wan.
What We Do in the Shadows coming back in a few weeks. I have to watch the finale of Obi-Wan happen today. I didn't get to watch that one, but I've seen the 5 prior to that, so that one will be the easiest one to knock down.
Yeah. Sweet. Right on, man.
Should we do an Obi-Watch Kenobi, or should we just wait till next week when I finished it?
I think let's wait till next week.
Okay.
I think it'll be easier to talk about at that point.
That's fine.
Without accidentally saying things.
Yeah. So then I think I only have one other major consumption on the list, and that is to follow up with you after we talked about it a bit a couple weeks ago, Dad Disasters on the Shutdown Fullcast. Did you get through and finish Dad Disasters?
I did not.
Okay. It's disappointing. There was a second Dad Disasters. It was the deleted scenes of Dad Disasters. Some of the stories that didn't make the cut of the initial episode, including, I think some of the highlights were Dad versus Hurricane Ocean. There was, what was it? It was Stubborn Dad and Portly Son bike through Germany. Which, that one was like rib hurting laughter from that one.
Nice.
Somehow they keep going back to the well of terrible German accents on that show. That was a pretty tremendous one. I still can't believe you didn't get to Dad A and Dad B in the first episode of Dad Disasters, because that one makes that whole episode worth it.
I'll try.
The only thing I'll say about it, without spoiling truly, is it's Dad A and Dad B, and there's a rattlesnake involved. That's all I've got to say.
Right.
That was like truly like, don't drive while listening to it. It's not safe. There's a handful of other pretty great ones, but
nice.
I think they took off this week because Holly was moving. She bought a new house or something like that, so she's moving. But the last couple of weeks have been incredibly strong. I know you've had some hit or miss thoughts on the last.
Yeah.
I think you listened to some of, was it Balloon Boys versus Horse Girls, and a bit of Dad Disasters 1.
Yeah.
This is the time for anyone who's not a football fan, I think, to be listening, because they truly go off the rails. I understand it's a tough sell if you're not a huge college football fan to listen during football season, but it just warms my heart to listen to that show.
Right on. Cool, man. Well, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. All right. Oh God, I tried to go to the movie and accidentally opened HBO and the movie started playing. I was like, no. All right. So we've got this is gonna be a weird one. I'm gonna read you your IMDb synopsis. Batman: The Dark Knight Returns, Part 1, released in 2012. Goodness gracious. Is that long ago? Holy moly.
Yeah, it came out a very long time ago.
Yeah.
I loosely remember, I think in maybe 2014 to 2015, seeing it on Netflix, and I was like, did this make the theaters, or did this go straight to DVD? Or, because back then, streaming apps were still kind of growing.
I do remember buying the Blu-ray of this, like having it pre-ordered, and now that I'm thinking about it, I also remember where I was. And it was right around that time with those IPAs that we were talking about not moments ago. But Batman has not been seen for 10 years. A new breed of criminal ravages Gotham City, forcing 55-year-old Bruce Wayne back into the cape and cowl. But does he still have what it takes to fight crime in a new era? That was part 1. Part 2 was released in 2013, a year later, also rated PG-13, hour and 16-minute runtime. The Batman has returned after a 10-year absence. The Gotham authorities want him arrested. An old foe wants a reunion. The feds want the Man of Tomorrow to put a stop to him. The Batman Dark Knight Returns, parts 1 and 2. Amazing. I am super pumped that we're doing this. I am a very big fan of this story. And I want to hear your hot takes. So, Al, why don't you kick us off?
An old Batman who's stuck in the past, but who can still learn some new tricks. He even has a mustache. 7.5 out of 10.
Wow. Dominic, what's yours?
All right, just an aside real quick. I was so glad that he had a mustache in the beginning. I honestly forgot that he had that. It's been that long since I've seen the beginning of part 1, just because mustache solidarity. But all right, the Dark Knight fights Decrepitude, the tech guy from Person of Interest, and the third Kryptonian Reich.
Oh my god.
I love every second of it.
What's your score?
I'll say 9 out of 10.
Right on.
I feel that strongly about it.
I'm with you. The best and most influential depiction of the Batman in the most faithful adaptation of any comic book, period. 9 out of 10. I love this story. I love this depiction of Batman. It is also the one that it's the reason that we have all of the Batman movies that we have today, for better or worse. And it's just like, this was the first time that the Dark Knight was really established as we want to know him. And I think one of the things that makes this particular movie or set of movies stand out is it might as well be a panel recreation of the graphic of this. Well, it was 4 comic books. It was like a 4-issue short run that was then compiled down together and was previously named something else. But ultimately, when it became a graphic novel that was released together, it was The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, this just anyone who hasn't seen Batman vs Superman, just skip that movie and watch this one. It's so infinitely better at telling that story, because a lot of people complained with the whole Zack Snyder Man of Steel vision, where people are afraid or concerned of an ultra powerful Superman, and if he turned to evil or if he was, in this case, kind of a fascist. You know, that's not a concept that I had an issue with. Ever since the beginning of Superman's run, he's been the true justice in the American way, which I respect, and that's fine. But it's always good to see different takes on characters. I mean, one of the big ones from Marvel in the past few years was when Captain America was a Hydra agent. And, you know, you can feel however you want about it. It's just cool for these characters who have been around for so long. You have different takes on them. And, you know, some people say that they want to see Batman and Superman being friendly more in different products. But I actually think they operate better when they're kind of odds, because they're just not the same type of character. And if you think about it, I'm not saying they couldn't work together or be buddy-buddy, but they have 2 vastly different philosophies and personas. So it makes sense that they would clash.
Yeah. It would be nice, though, to see... Because now we've seen a couple different iterations of them being diametrically opposed and like actually doing combat with each other. But it would be nice to see a version of like the way that Marvel and the Avengers did with, you know, the closest parallel between them, I feel like, is Captain America and Tony Stark, what we saw in the MCU, where they may butt heads and approach things differently, but ultimately find a way to come to common ground and work together, and then eventually directly square off in Civil War. I have no issue with seeing that in some iterations. We've seen it a couple times. That's cool and all. And it's not remotely why. I wouldn't say I had any problems with this. I just didn't like totally love the movie. I liked the movie. I liked it quite a bit. It would be nice to see an iteration of them more or less finding a way to work together, though, outside of like the last 45 seconds of the Justice League or Zack Snyder's Justice League, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like you could probably go back and watch the Batman and Superman Adventures and get that feel, and it would be worth it, because those cartoons are just so much fun.
I don't think I ever saw those.
You can get those
Justice
mixed
League
in with
Unlimited?
no, I'm talking like old stuff back towards like the Batman the Animated Series. There was a Batman Superman Adventures that kind of coincides with it, and occasionally episodes would cross over to be part of the other series.
I might have seen some of that because I definitely watched a ton of Batman the Animated Series. I don't remember a lot of it in fine detail because I was quite young and it's been well over 20 years since I watched any of that. I definitely watched some of the Superman show that was out at that time too.
Yep.
I like that one as well, but I didn't watch as much of that as the Batman show. I do remember seeing them on screen together. I don't remember which show it was on or if it was its own show. I don't remember, but
yeah, I'm not really. I only have the memories of those shows from back when I watched it and being a little bit confused about what was happening because it'd be like Batman the Animated Series is on, but then the intro would play and it would be like the new Batman and Superman Adventures or something like that, and that would be like they would like crisscross, and you would know which version you're watching by the intro that played beforehand.
Okay,
even if it was listed one way or another in the TV guide back in the day. But all fun stuff. I love those old cartoons. As you know, as members of the show, as listeners of the show know, I was watching the original Batman the animated series from the beginning with Elio like a few months ago, and I think we got like maybe 20 or so episodes in, which is like I don't know halfway through the first season. But it's just so good. It holds up too. It's really a good time. Even that though, like very much influenced by this, right? It's that darker Gotham, darker Batman, grittier, more serious. Even if there is still the over the top and campy villains, it is inspired by this story and
a slightly darker
this
bat
setting. This is slightly darker bat. One of the favorite bits of this though is I love the fat bat, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite version of. I actually have I've got a fat bat pop on my shelf over here that I absolutely love. But it's not just him. My favorite part about it is not just that the Batman is fat, but the bat on the bat is fat. It's like a thicker bat logo.
He's wearing an old costume. It's just
stretched out. and you know, as many mistakes as they made in Batman v Superman, the one thing that they got absolutely right was Batman's costume. I love.
Cool
That's my favorite one. That is my favorite on-screen costume for Batman.
Well, it's because it looks like the animated series costume.
It looks like this one too because it's got the fat bat.
Yeah,
and also
I meant the black gray color scheme.
The black gray is so good. I think
what I love the most about the character design and animation was that all of the heroes and even Superman look like the Crimson Chin from Timmy Turner.
We watched both of them back to back on Monday night, and within the first like 8 minutes of the movie, Don was like, "I love all their chins in this."
They look like the Crimson Chin from the Fairly Odd
Actually, like the first thing that Don said when we started watching, which was great, was he's like, I totally forgot that this movie starts with a Formula One race.
Yes, yeah.
And I was like, hang on a second, is that Batman? He's got a mustache. What's going on here?
It's great.
Also, it was extremely of its time, the animation, especially early on, where it like looks very hand-drawn, but they like CGI'd the cars and they're just polygons. And he gets into a crash and it's just this rectangle that's flipping over and over and over again.
Even Commissioner Gordon had a Crimson Chin.
Dominic, I would like to point out you called the mustache out. However, what you're failing to realize is that later on it gets shaved, and that's the next note.
Is that a subtle jab?
That's It is.
I'll have you know.
Every story has an ending, Dominic. Every story has an ending.
I'll have you know that I had a referendum on my mustache when I was deployed. I got this gift of cocktail recipes from death metal bar down in the city, and a whole bunch of people from my unit signed off on it with like messages of welcome home and congrats and all that. And
cool.
It became a mini referendum on the mustache with several people who I didn't even know if they knew who I was were saying like keep it or shave it. But you know, the count was overwhelmingly in the favor of keep the mustache.
What he's leaving out though is the fact that his direct boss, who is friendly with us, we see him occasionally outside of work. He was the one who organized the gift, and his signature within the thing. It was like they all signed it similar to the way that like you do a yearbook. his signature within it was shave the mustache. That's all he wrote. Shave the mustache and his name underneath it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sorry, Dominic had to step away to let out Cooper this time, so we can vamp some more on Batman or mustaches or whatever.
Well, I think what's important is that Bruce shaves his mustache. He even to his own surprise.
it did seem like he forgot that he did it. Like he did it subconsciously.
He did forget. That was the whole thing. Alfred's like, "Oh, you shaved, sir." He's like, "What?"
as he furiously strokes his face, he's like, "Would you look at
that? Son of a bitch! I did shave." I frowned so aggressively that it fell off. He does do a lot of frowning. He's very grumpy. He's a grumpy man.
Well, Batman and Bruce Wayne in general are grumpy.
Yeah.
But certainly a 60-year-old Batman is going to be even grumpier than normal.
This is true. Al, this is the first time you've watched these, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, so I have seen a little clip of it once when he was watching it several years ago. I didn't realize until we were watching. I'd seen him watching the fight scene between him and was the mutant alpha or whatever the hell it was.
The mutant leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were we going to do this movie at one point?
No, you've been really hung up on this. I think I had mentioned it a while back that Dominic said he wanted to do this, but we just hadn't put it on the docket. Because the other day when I said, let's do this one, you're like, but we already did that with Dominic. I was like, no, we did Mask of the Phantasm with Dominic.
Right.
And you and I did the Long Halloween last year.
What was confusing me was that I went into HBO to watch it just because I have even though I have the movies, because I have easy access on the streaming services, I just went in there to put it on again, and only to find that I had already watched it on HBO Max, which I did not recall doing. So I just assumed that I had done it in the past in preparation for this show.
Yeah, no, I've never seen the movie before, so we definitely didn't do it. Because most of what happened, I certainly would have realized 5 or 10 minutes in, wait, I've seen this before. All of it was new to me.
This is by far my favorite of the Batman animated movies. Not to say that there aren't other good ones.
Oh yeah,
as we'll further get into it, it's such a complex, nuanced idea. And then, of course, the one point I take away from my review is just the mutants a little bit. So obviously, you show them to be a realistic, serious threat. He nearly gets killed from the mutant leader. You see how much they're messing up the city and causing panic and fear amongst the average people. But, you know, the campiness is a little bit too much. Like, it's definitely funny, the slice and dice and the scud and Spud. Yes, you're right. And, Batman don't shiv, but, you know, it's a little too much.
When they said the Spuds thing, I was like, they said it the first time, I was like, okay, fine. And then they kept saying it, I was like, hang on a second. Are they implying that everyone is a potato? I'm very confused by this.
And then chicken legs and licking shags.
Are they all just really into French fries? We got to slice and dice the Spuds? Is that what we're doing?
That's right. Here? I'm into French fries.
So am I. Once we'd seen a couple of scenes with them on screen. I was like, oh my god! And I know you've never watched it, Anthony, despite how many times we've talked about it. I know Dominic watched a good amount of the first season, but the way they talked reminded me a lot of in The Expanse, what they call Belter Creole, the people who live in the asteroid belt who don't come from Earth or Mars have like their kind of own sub language that they call Belter Creole because it's like a combination mishmash of a bunch of different languages. And it's very heavily reliant on slang. And it was like if they took that but filtered it through like 1930s like Prohibition era like mafia type movies. Like I feel like if you just taken out the whole weird like slang and accent, it would have come out as the way like, you know, all those old mob movies. Yeah, what are you talking about, Harris? See, you know, all that sort of.
It's really funny. So I remember the first time really identifying this feeling was when I was when I read the story way back, and then because like the same language is used in the story, and reading it is very difficult because it doesn't make any sense, especially the way like the cadence and delivery of the words, and then of course the movie comes along and it's the same thing. I don't know what it is about things like that, and it's, you know, I've seen it in different mediums, whether it be like other TV shows or movies or something, like where like you're using like the language, but in random words. It's almost like it's a slang that doesn't make any sense, and because the words aren't right and they're not in the right spot, I get like physically enraged. I don't know how to explain it. It bothers me so much, and it's so unnerving.
Well, you know what it is it can be anxiety inducing.
Maybe that's what it is.
That's what it is, because I felt exactly the same way watching the Expanse at times. That's why it's what, and it was the same thing. Reading it was even harder actually at times in the book.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you could understand it better, but sometimes I was like, I have no idea what they're trying to convey in that sequence.
I just find myself. What do you say? Shut up! Just shut up! Stop saying.
You've been speaking for 45 seconds, and it's something you could have said in 3. Like,
yeah. Oh my god, Rob and Todd, or whatever the hell their names were. Yeah, the slice and dice is fine. I'll give the Batman.
Slice and dice was funny.
The don't shiv thing is one of the ones that really irritates me. I don't know why.
Don't
just
shiv,
like,
man. What are you gonna say?
Stop it!
Don't shiv.
Stop it! I hate it. And then it's so funny because like when the Robin character, Carrie Kelly,
when she goes undercover later,
and
she says something even more confusing that they were like, I kind of feel like I understand what you're saying, but now I feel like I'm left behind. Like,
she says it like a proper way. Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. I don't understand how you just use this ridiculous slang in a proper way. I don't.
Yes,
but
that's true.
I followed it.
Well, it reminded me of like when someone like has like taught themselves another language, and they can like speak it fluently and flawlessly, but they don't have the right accent.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds super clinical instead of natural, the way like it would be. Like it sounds like hearing a computer speak Spanish. Like
that's like me speaking Spanish because I can't roll my R's. I sound very
amazing.
What's it called? Oh god, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, that's bad.
You lost it even before it started?
I did.
Has happened. I get that.
It happens a lot on the show.
Yeah,
actually.
that's really. It'll come to me in like 10 seconds from now, and I'm going to interrupt one of you to finish my point too. I will not be. I'll not be kind.
That's fine.
Polite.
I will say one of my favorite parts about this is honestly, I love the opening. I love where the movie starts, where the story starts, and it's like Batman, Bruce, one and the same at this point, chasing a good death, looking to be done with this, but it's got to be a good one, and I just think that's so cool. Like they driving the car, racing down the road. This would be a good death, but not good enough. And then the explosion and just into the sewer. It's just so good. I love the whole thing. It's like, this is explosive, but God, it's got to be bigger.
Can I just say that Batman or Bruce is on the same level of irresponsible, borderline criminal adult figures as Dumbledore, because he's only happy when this 15-year-old teenager with no combat experience is fighting in a literal war zone with the mutants and attacking the mutant leader, and he's got a big smile on his face because he has his new Robin or whatever. That's almost as bad as Albus Dumbledore punishing some students for being up late at night out in the hallways by going to the murder forest and having to deal with this thing murdering unicorns, even though he says if you go into that area is completely forbidden if you don't want to die a terrible death. And it's just like, these figures, you want to root for Albus Dumbledore and you want to root for Batman, but Jesus, do they really like get our heart on about fucking young kids dying in the service of a better cause?
You also have to put in a dash of, I think, the Dread Pirate Roberts, where it's like, good night, Wesley. I'll likely kill you tomorrow. Like, every time they go on a new job, he's like, do exactly this, that, or the other thing, otherwise you're fired.
Yeah,
and then we're just gonna come back and do this tomorrow. Like, he's like, fire me again.
Your on-the-job training involves getting into a fight with this, again, fascistic type police leader who's opening fire on me without giving me a trial. And she's not fully trained. She has no body armor. She got no weapons. But yeah, hang out in this helicopter above them as they're gunning us down. And it's just like, Jesus, you couldn't think of any better way of training her?
Well, there's like this self-sabotage to what he's doing, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, he is chasing, Batman's chasing the death. And he's chasing it specifically because of all of the experiences of his past have been built up. And especially the Jason Todd aspect of it, right? Which is where he hung up the cape and cowl. It was after Jason Todd was killed. And this was also the first story where we kind of get that, a peek at that story without actually going into any details. which later becomes the longer run Death in the Family, and we get the details of what actually happened. But we're just told in this case that we know that Jason Todd died. We don't really know exactly how or why, and then we also know later on that the Joker had something to do with it. But that little bit of mystery is enough, because what we have is like that's where Batman became completely unhinged, I feel like. And it's like he is that, and that's why he's chasing this now. He has to make it all worth it in some way, and it has to go out with some big extravagant bang. And he's dug this hole, and he's just digging it deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think that's what I love about the story, is that he is so tremendously flawed in this version of the story. And he really can't help himself. And I think that is so interesting.
Yeah, I think this is probably, of all of the Batmans, especially if you talk about the last several iterations that we've seen on the big screen, between the Batman, the Batfleck, and the Christian Bale Batmans, like, we've seen and heard different variations of Alfred's, like, basically saying, like, you can't quit it, or you can't stay away from it, or, like, what is it you're chasing? This is the most, like, overt and obvious of the, like, you're addicted to this. He literally falls off the wagon, right? 10 years clean of Batman, and here I am back in it, and it's going to kill me this time. Hell, he fakes his death in the end, spoiler alert, but, like, you can
just lob it in there.
Well, I mean, that's
right.
Like, if you've gotten this far into listening about this, you've made your choice as to whether you're going to listen to it while watching the movie or not. But, like, it's a pretty good parallel for addiction, right? Where, when you go clean for that long, those are the people who often die from overdoses, right? Because you come back and there's no stopping. You're jumping off a plane without a parachute, right?
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about it is, like, you can see, like, all of the angles of this, right? Like, it's so clear where he's at and, like, how self-destructive he is, but at the same time, he has done a lot of good. And then I love that this story goes into the psychology of the other side of the argument. Like, is he actually creating the problem by doing what he's doing, right? And in some cases, it seems like an obvious yes, whereas in others, it's an obvious no. So it's, of course, a gray area of, like, throughout the entire story. And I love the world that they've set up here. And it's wild to see him. Like, I do think, you'll see a lot of influences from this specific run of 4 issues, like, in all of current day Batman things, but very much so in the Nolan Batmans, right? And one of my favorite, like, things about, like, okay, so he's going deeper and deeper, especially he is really off the rails by the end of this movie, right? And it very much reminds me of Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And, like, that, he is really not doing great by the end. And it's and he kind of, like, he, like, semi redeems it, but also there's reason to believe that what he's about to do in the final acts of the final moment of this movie is probably not going to end well. Like, it's gonna training all of these people his way, right? That's only gonna go well for so long until there's some breakaway or splinter group or somebody that disagrees and now has all of his training knowledge. Like,
wait, you think the splinter group of a cult creating another splinter group isn't a possibility?
It's just, yeah, exactly.
Well, I think I said while we were watching the end of that, I was like, oh wait, he's just creating his own League of Shadows. That'll surely end well.
I am the League of Shadows.
We are the sons of Batman. We run this city.
I love that. I bet there's definitely, like, a Robot Chicken version of that where they cut to Batman and he's just like, no.
Why? Also, it's funny.
I've made a huge mistake. It's Will Arnett's Batman, Lego Batman.
Made a huge mistake. It's funny. I didn't really think about it. I did enjoy the kind of, like, temperature check throughout the course of the movies where they were having the talking heads on TV debate the pros and cons of Batman and this, that, and the other thing. I did find that to be really interesting, but it didn't quite click for me then. But as you were just saying it now about, okay, the way you framed it specifically is he solving something and it's just coincidental, or is he possibly creating this worse and worse situation? Is Batman an antibiotic?
Wow.
Because we had problems we couldn't solve that were causing deaths and destruction of people. We invented antibiotics, and they killed and suppressed and eradicated those things, made the quality of life overall much better. But then certain bacteria were able to survive the antibiotics and become unkillable strains of bacteria that now we're like, oh god, we're throwing the antibiotics at you and it won't kill you. Same thing with Batman. Okay, so the mafia and the street criminals, like the street level criminals, we just beat the crap out of those. But from that crucible rose the Joker and the Harvey Dent and the Riddler and all of those other terrible, horrible, nearly undefeatable criminals. You know, it's pretty good parallel, I think.
Yeah.
I think this one actually did the best job, or amongst the best jobs, of all of the Batman movies in showing the dejected, depressed, broken nature of the Gotham people. Not to say that none of the other Batman properties didn't do a good job of representing this, but nobody outside of Commissioner Gordon really seemed to care about fixing this problem, and he seems to be among the few who initially missed Batman or thought he was doing a good job. All these people, you hear them in the background, like Carrie's parents, like, oh my god. Of course, they're also like the... I mentioned this during the movie. I was like, they're like the wine and Adderall parents every night. They're just like, he's like trampling people's civil liberties. And I'm like, how are they living in this city with this young kid? And it's all going to hell, and they don't care about this guy who's trying to make things better, who's putting his life and his body and his mind on this. And so many other people are saying the thing, like, oh, trampling civil rights. And like, don't get me wrong, like, that's important. But at the same time, when you're watching as an audience, I don't know how you relate to those people, because we watch superhero movies because they break through all the bureaucracy and the crap that we see in our lives that we wish someone sometimes would almost just break through to can the bad guy, to make things better. So I find that kind of interesting, that dynamic. And he's one of the few people who actually, and you see it at the very end when he convinces the people fighting to be better, to put down their weapons and build towards something better and to fix the city. Same thing with Commissioner Gordon. So you overall think he's doing a positive thing, even though all these people are so concerned about, trampling civil liberties and this and that, which again, we have the rule of law, and that's always something that people generally respect. But when things are that bad, you think most people would just support something getting better instead of this big debate on. Nobody had an alternative to bringing Batman back to make the city better. I thought this overall, as we'll continue to talk about, this movie is brilliantly, I feel like, takes on the public debate over issues, and then also, government and all that. Because clearly, if you've seen this movie, Frank Miller did not like government, did not think very strongly about it. So overall, this was a surprisingly nuanced and complex view of the public and of the role of government in an animated movie show. Sorry, animated movie.
I like animated movie show.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. Go on this whole rant, and then
I love it.
A few words.
You tripped on the dismount. The Russian judge does not approve. 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Swanson got swag, and this has a Big Ben clock.
Dominic hasn't watched enough Parks and Rec.
Right.
That was, what the hell's his name? Ben
Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz, his character, John Ralphio.
Sure.
There's John Ralphio and Mona Lisa Saperstein, who John Ralphio is Tom's best friend, Aziz Ansari's character, and their dad's Henry Winkler, who's like is he a lawyer or doctor? He was a doctor, right?
He's a doctor.
Because he ends up being the OBGYN for But so he kept coming up with these rhymes, and he would absolutely crush it, and then right when he should be ending it, he would add another word at the end of it and totally break the rhyme structure. They're like, no, why'd you keep going? Just stop there.
I love it. But you know what I love about so going back to the characters for a moment, Gordon. I love the Gordon in this because he's also the Gordon that we get in Nolan's Batman. It's very heavily influenced by this as well, where it's he has made a decision that he trusts and believes in what the Batman is doing, but also knows that he doesn't know if he's right. And I love that. He's conflicted. He trusts him, but he knows that there's there's a line, and he can't really quite distinguish it.
I don't even know if he was conflicted so much as just resigned. I think at that point he's like, well, I've trusted him so many other times that it's come out well. I don't know if he's right or wrong, but trusting him is never failed me before. We might as well just go along with it.
Right, but no, that's why he's conflicted, though, is because he's the one that could easily pull the trigger and, like, stop Batman, but he doesn't. So that's where the conflict, I think, comes in, where he realized Gordon is, like, the highly intelligent, educated person who is seeing the entire picture and realizes that he still doesn't have enough information, and he still can't make it's not a binary choice of, like, yes or no. Batman is good. Analysis. Right, and he's just there, and he's like, ultimately, like, and what I always love about a good Gordon depiction Gordon goes back to his gut, and his gut tells him, go with Batman, and I love that, and he's like, even so, and every time he does it, he's like, I'm gonna do it, and I said I'm gonna do it, so I'm gonna do it. I hope I'm right. Like, that whole side of it is just it's so heavy and dark, and I just love that depiction of Gordon as well.
This Gordon bets on the hard 16 every single time.
It's great to have morals until you actually have to apply them, and that's the thing that he's come to terms with in his old age and at the end of his retirement, and that he tries to convince the new police commissioner, I forget her name in the movie, but
Ellen something?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. But anyways, he has his views of the law and keeping Gotham safe, but he's willing to cross that line if he trusts his gut and thinks it's in the public interest, which this new lady does not. She just believes black and white in the law and doing exactly what technically is supposed to be done.
But you know what I also love about that scene? So the scene where the new commissioner, who's going to be the new commissioner, is coming into Gordon's office before he retires and has that conversation with him. Like, I really respect the way that you do things. I actually align with you on most everything that you do, except for your stance on the Batman. And I love, like, Gordon's been doing this enough time, right? He knows that, like, trying to change somebody else's mind is a fool's errand. You shouldn't bother. So he's like, then let's not talk about that. That is such a great line, because it's like, let's focus on our other things that we can actually build on. Otherwise, we're just going to be going back and forth. No this, no that, no this, no that. No, let's be productive. And I think that is like a really, I just love that so much.
In the macro, I think you're right. There's something to that. But in the specifics of that scene, I kind of had to laugh, because we agree on everything except Batman. It's like, well, Batman is fundamentally intertwined in all of Gordon's policies. You can't agree with him on everything and diametrically oppose him on Batman. Batman, do you think that in that everything else he's done,
in that moment when he hears her say that, do you think he goes, he's like, well, let's talk about something else, but underneath his breath he's like, you'll come around.
He chose to by the end of it, so he was right on her, and clearly a wise guy. I wish we could have kind of see her coming around to support him a little bit more. I mean,
well, she does. She has that line about
kind of, but it's like one line. I mean, I wish to see a little bit more.
But she acts upon it, though. She says the line, and it informs her action there, and it's a reflection of what Gordon said, where he goes, "He's too big. He's too big to just define in black and white terms." And she goes, "We can't do anything. Yeah. He's too big."
It'd just be nice to see like one scene where she actively cooperated in investigation, but at that point, that's a separate movie.
Yeah,
it would just be kind of maybe be cool. Honestly, I wouldn't mind a sequel to this where he's building his Sons of Batman task force and training the new Robin. I can see it's probably a little late at this point, but it wouldn't have been cool, or it would have been cool to see a sequel to that to build on what they were teasing at the end, honestly.
I don't know. If she was on the fence about one rogue vigilante who seems to always come up with the right solution, I don't know how she's going to feel about a man who's literally training a vigilante cult force.
Right.
They tease a continuation of the story, kind of, and they don't, which I understand, because it was a good self-contained story, but...
No, I just feel like she's going to eventually snap back. Like, no, this is just too far. I just cannot.
Yeah, I do like the idea of, like you said, Alex, like, he's too big. The idea of the character coming around and thinking, like, oh, I'm going to have to think about / work through some stuff, being that the entire arc of that character is actually pretty cool to me, because the story already has so much going on that, and Dominic, to your point, like, I would definitely explore that character in another story. I think that would be cool. Okay, so like now let's jump 10 years ahead and see where this character is at and what they're doing and how they feel about things and what they've accomplished. That would be really cool. In the scope of this movie, I do love the way that plays out. I love a lot about this movie.
It's fantastic. Like I said,
no.
I think probably what I appreciate the most is, great, the Batman kicking ass in old age. It's just like, I think that Frank Miller does such a great job taking on the idea of the role of government, the role of superheroes, the idea of Batman is the vigilante. They try and make him out to be the bad guy in the public sense, where all he's trying to do is, yes, he is going outside the law, and morally most people would disagree with that, but in reality he is trying to do for the better. Whereas Superman, he has the badge, he's working for the president, and so most people would support him because he's the law and order, but is what he is doing, is that right? And that's the main question that they try and have you answer as you watch this.
Well,
so I think that's probably my favorite part about the whole movie.
On it exactly, and on that, what's really cool is, so it's like, yeah, like he has. So is he right? Okay, at face value, with given just those line items, it sounds like, yeah, that seems pretty straightforward. And then they pepper in the point of like, well, now the government is saying go after Batman because he bruised their ego, like that. Yes. And then it's like, oh crap! But if the person pulling the strings is wrong, then it's like, oh shit! Like, so it's just blind. It's just blindly following. Like, so is that worse than the vigilante who truly feels what this is right? But then who's to say that what the vigilante thinks is right is right? And I love it. It's all gray. The whole thing is gray. I think that's the whole point. It's like, under the circumstances, one might be right, or the other might be right. Or they might both be wrong depending on what's going on. It's just, there's no definitive answer. And I think that's like the complications of life and government and policies and things in general. And like you were saying, Dominic, like he does an incredible job at depicting the flaws in structure and decision making in this animated, what was it?
Animated movie show.
Animated movie show.
Well, like I said, he's actually cutting to the core of Americans and people's beliefs in authority figures. Superman's an authority figure because he works directly for the president, and Batman is usurping the rule of law. But in this case, I think most people would agree that Batman was in the right and Superman was in the wrong. Maybe people feel differently, but that's just how I personally feel. But he's tackling the issue of people blindly following authority figures simply because they're in authority positions, that they expect those people to always be moral and always do the right thing.
You know what I love about that
he lives long enough to become the villain, because in the end he fakes his own death to become an authority figure without any sort of oversight.
But that adds another layer, right? Because then to Dominic's point, like, let's say, okay, but is he doing the right thing by doing what he's doing? The answer might be yes, that he's doing the right thing, but then you add the next layer of, is he doing it for the right reasons? Because then that could change the entire perspective.
Sure.
And that's, I think, what makes this entire like story, the writing and execution, like a masterclass, is like how do you manage to layer all of these things in so perfectly? Like,
and to be fair, the point I was just making, it ends on a question mark, not on a definitive statement. It's not saying, oh, he's just become like everyone else. He's trying to take up that mantle that he was speaking and acting against. Now, is he going to become the same thing that he sort of like undermined, or will he have learned from the mistakes of those prior to him and do it in a better way? And we don't know. It ends on a question mark.
Yeah.
Well, let me clarify my position. I don't think Batman's perfect. I do overall root for him, but he's not perfect. But the thing is they also make the point, look at when Superman goes on his rampages, when he is destroying aircraft carriers and throwing tanks and batting planes out of the sky. Batman can't do that. No matter how effective he is, he does not have the power that Superman does, which is something they tackle, I think, fairly well in the Batman vs. Superman movie, is that he has all the power of Superman. So again, I understand that he didn't really do anything really evil, maybe a little inconsiderate in Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. But the whole concept is Batman does not have unlimited power. So yes, he's operating outside the bounds of the law, and it's possible he could fall to the dark side, let's say, and become an evil figure, of course.
Which in the Snyder stuff he does, right? Like he starts going too far. He starts not just beating up people, he starts becoming actively cruel to those people.
I get it. At the same time, like I said, Batman can never be Superman because it doesn't have his powers. So he can be taken down, even though Gordon says he's too big to take on. I don't agree with that. Once he...
I don't think he means too big in the physical sense. No, very much in the thematic sense.
I think he means it kind of in both ways, because obviously he's a kick-ass fighter, too.
Sure, but if they called in the National Guard, they could surely kill...
Well, they took on the whole police force, and none of them can bring him down.
But I think the point was, who am I? It's shorthand for saying, who am I to judge?
Yeah.
Well, the opposite side of that, when Batman is fighting Superman, and Batman has the upper hand, and Superman is like, dude, they're just gonna, if it's not me, it's gonna be someone else. And that line of like, who do they send after you, is like, so it's like, burn. It's so good. I love it. You know what I love about this story? So I had years ago when this movie came out, I was talking to a buddy of mine who, as in a passing conversation, was like, Batman versus Superman, who would win? And I was like, well, I've seen that story. Batman wins. And he's like, what are you talking about? How could that be possible? And I was like, just watch this. It's a great version where Batman, I mean, I love the idea of, he's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to kill you, but just know
I could have.
And that is such a tremendous win. I love it so much.
Well, it's a double win, right? Because not only did you win, but you also get to claim the high ground. I mean, the Jedi way.
Nice. Nailed it. Nailed it.
It's also funny, 1 versus 2. Part 1 is just him getting his groove back and trying to help the city.
How Batman got his groove back?
Yeah, basically.
Bruce got his groove.
Yeah. The second one is all about fighting a semi-fascistic regime, and also there's the Joker who's come back, and then there's international politics and the Cold War. So the second one I feel like I still like it. It's maybe a little bit more jumbled and unfocused than part 1. It almost feels like there needs to be a part 1, 2, and 3, where like part 1 is the mutants, maybe part 2 is the Joker, and part 3 is the whole Superman thing. Because then all of a sudden, obviously you see why Superman comes into the story, because there's all this national news about the mutant fight and interactions with Batman, but then you're also jumbling the return of the Joker, who was in a comatose state for all this time, and then within the movie you have 2 movies. So it's like, I feel like there should probably been 3 movies.
I gotta say, I did not see in any way, shape, or form the pivot to President Reagan and Superman are getting involved in this situation.
Yeah,
just flat out did not see that coming.
You need more time to build up to that. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to even go that.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because even though it's split over 2 movies, it feels like a 3-act structure over the 2 movies. So it is a little odd. I could see your point of 3 stories being better, and I think three parts may have been great, or probably should have gone into 4 parts, because that's how the original story was. And if they had done that, you could have focused a little bit tighter on the different things that you were tackling. I don't know if that ends up causing you to lose some of the threads, because I do feel like it does work well as a 2-part. It has its pros and cons, but the main part in the beginning of Batman coming back gives you this establishment of who Batman is in this universe. This darker, grittier Batman. They were putting Batman back to his roots of being this vigilante, like having these strong opinions, having the feeling of I know what's right because I have all of the resources at my disposal to know what's right, and acting on that whether I have your support or not. That whole thing is so cool, and bringing that Batman and defining him in the early part of the story. In the middle, we get Batman and the Joker, which is the true Batman and Joker that we'll now see iterations on for the rest of our lives and then some. And it's we're we're drifting away from this old, overly campy Batman into this darker version of who we actually wanted him to be. So let's also show what the other side of that is, right? So they give you this Joker who is very dark and also has a history, and they bring him back and kind of by bringing him back from being in an asylum and under rehabilitation, they almost give him the chance to like redefine who the character is, and it births the Joker that we know today in that moment. And I think they do such a good job with that. And while it's one of my favorite parts of the whole thing, I do think that middle story with him and the Joker doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of the two other pieces that are like really one cohesive line of like Batman coming back and the fight with Superman and like that.
It's
whole
definitely a baton pass.
And and even though it doesn't, it's not necessary for what the actual storyline is. I don't think. I do appreciate that they did it because I think they did a tremendous job with the Joker. And even though it's not the main story beat for the whole two movies, my absolute favorite part of this whole thing is the one scene, the end of the first part, where he goes, "Darling." It's like, oh, it's so good.
He starts moving his fingers, and he's just like, Batman? It's just like, that was the best moment in the world for him.
Yeah.
I was initially skeptical when I first started watching the movie, and I heard the Joker voice, and I was like, it's not really what I picture as the Joker. He kind of grew on me over time. Of course, when I looked up who was voicing him, I was like, really? That's him?
I didn't even know. Who was it?
Well, like I said, I never really watched the show. My mom did, but
Person of interest.
Yeah, person of interest. He's like the tech guy behind the technology that...
The guy with the glasses, the short...
Okay. I know, yeah.
Jim Caviezel takes down, so... and then also, I'm looking at Batman The Dark Knight Returns, that D. Bradley Baker, a famous voice actor. Are you too familiar with who he is?
He's Obi-Wan or Anakin?
No, he voices all the clones.
Oh, the clones, damn it.
He's a prolific voice actor. He is Don, the one guy who's talking about slice and dice.
At one point, was it Ron and Don or something?
Ron and Don.
Yeah, because I am Ron.
I'm Ron and I'm Don. They're wearing shirts.
He is such a great, prolific actor. He did all the clones. He was a big voice actor in Avatar: The Last Airbender. So I just found that funny as I was looking at the voice cast of everyone in this.
That's funny. Peter Weller as Batman was kind of cool too.
He was fantastic because I first saw him, of course, in Dexter. Were you a fan of Dexter, the show?
I was. Well, I am, as in I watched it recently.
Yes, the final season.
No, but he watched through the whole show last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, which we should talk about in a separate episode.
Once Al actually catches up.
Peter Weller as Stan Liddy, and then as Batman. I was like, oh my god, it's Stan Liddy. I was like, this is great. I just expected him to say Lumen.
Yeah, I mentioned that on the show a few weeks ago. Because that's one of my favorite lines of like anything ever. Is just him just the way he delivers it. It's so disdainful. I was skeptical when I heard he was Batman. I was like, wait, come on, him of all people. I mean, I understand he was RoboCop, and from a certain point of view, you could probably look through some similarities there. But
he's got that bassy voice that is. It's a great alternative to Kevin Conroy.
Yeah,
who is my favorite Batman
confident, voice. Weathered. I think he did a very good job as Batman.
Well, also to be fair, when I knew he was Batman before actually seeing it, I didn't realize that this story was old Batman. So I'm picturing like a 35-year-old Batman who sounds like Peter Weller, and I was
I can see that.
No way. And then once I saw he's 60 years old and he has a mustache and a limp, I'm like, okay, I guess I can kind of see this now.
Although, how old is Kevin Conroy? Because he's still doing stuff as Batman, right?
Yeah,
he hasn't for a while. I thought.
I think he did something not that long ago. Maybe one of the video games.
Okay.
He did The Killing Joke, which was 6 years ago. He is... Oh my god, he's almost 70.
I was going to say, he's older, and I thought he was in poor health. I thought he had to step back from doing it.
He did the Arkham Knight games, he did the Killing Joke, so... Fairly recent. I guess the health is probably a good part of it.
Well, because we watched a few months ago we watched The Long Halloween Part 1 and 2.
I haven't seen that one.
And that came out last year, and Jensen Ackles, wasn't it him who did it?
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of that choice.
Well, he did the Batwoman show in 2019. He did, I don't know what this looks like, a game that's coming out this year called the Multiverses, and he's actually voicing Batman again.
Oh,
Do you know what that is?
No.
That's like I think it's I don't know if it's a Warner Brothers properties beat 'em up like Super Smash Brothers.
Game featuring many different Warner Bros. Properties.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Arya Stark, Harley Quinn,
What?
Shaggy, Velma.
Oh, they could finally give us an actual version of the extremely powerful Shaggy.
Yeah, and Matthew Lillard is voicing him again. Oh, that's good.
That's great. Anthony, are you familiar with the extremely powerful Shaggy?
I'm not.
That was.
I just read that Ted Lasso may be coming to Multiverse.
Oh, come on.
God's sakes.
What is he gonna kill you with kindness? Like, come on. That was like a really popular meme, like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. The extremely powerful Shaggy, where it's like they like change like the color scale, and he's like doing like a Thanos like grip, and they would have all these like stupid memes about like. I don't know. It was really dumb, but some of it was pretty funny.
So controversial take on this movie.
Uh-oh.
This was the best Batman score out of all the movies.
The best Batman score? It's really good. It's not, you're wrong, but it's really good.
That's just my take. I get a chill down my spine every time I hear the swelling of the music, especially like when he's fighting the mutant leader. I'm just like, yes.
Yeah,
I could some really cool cues, but I don't
can appreciate that.
Score.
That's just my opinion.
It's very good. It's very I don't fault you for feeling that way. I do disagree, obviously, but I think it's a close second or third.
It's not your fault.
Well, what would be your ranking of the?
Well, it's obviously Hans Zimmer's score of The Dark Knight is the best one.
And so you think this is the second one because you mentioned it might be the third one.
I am a really big fan of Danny Elfman's '89. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I think we need to do to Danny Elfman's score what Peter did, what Chris did in Blue Harvest.
What?
Remember when he has Danny Elfman in Blue Harvest, and then he like cuts Danny Elfman's head off in Blue Harvest?
Oh, I forgot about that. I just remember when they're in Tatooine, he goes, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, John Williams." They played
I think they show him getting like killed during the attack on Owen. And he's like, all right, now we got Danny Elfman, and he just ignites his lightsaber, just beheads him. Yeah.
So circling back to this movie, the one of the things that I remember. So this is my only issue that I took with the film adaptation of the story is back when I read this for the first time like years ago, commuting for college, like on the ferry. And I remember just being like on the way home, finishing it and being like, what did I just read? Like, this is so good. And one of the panels that really caught me, it's like, if I remember it correctly, it was like a full page of multiple panels. It's when the Joker kills himself. And in the movie, he does this like really gross continuous turn until his neck snaps. But the way that I remember it, and I would have to go back to find the panels to see if I'm right about this, I remember him swinging his head back and forth, laughing until it snaps. And I was like, I'm so uncomfortable. Like, this is so, and like and at the end, like when it finally, it's like, ha, 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 crack. And I was like, he just fucking do what I think he did. And then I turned the page and I was like, oh my God, he did. And I was blown away. It was the first time I didn't have that spoiled for me in advance. And I was just like, I was completely thrown. I was like, this is ridiculous.
I was say either way, I'm gonna kind of call bullshit because I'm pretty sure that's not something you can just do to yourself when you're paralyzed. But
that's just
it is
not possible.
A pretty like momentous occasion. There's no question about that.
Yeah. It was. We get it, Dominic. You like the Crimson Chin.
I was just saying, you have to appreciate how it looks exactly like Commissioner Gordon, Batman, and Superman.
It does. So in the final epic battle between Batman and Superman, Batman wins with the help of one single-armed Oliver Queen, which is great. It's a very seasoned Oliver who has lost his arm and has been part of this whole government shutdown of the superheroes, pushing them off into retirement.
Now, is that why they call it salt and pepper hair?
Wow.
Wow.
So, jeez. After all of that, and he's Batman. Well, Bruce supposedly dies with a heart attack. The scene at the gravesite, this really gets me. Was he a friend? Gordon asks Clark, was he a friend? I'm not sure. Sounds about right. And he walks away. I was like, oh, the heaviness of their entire relationship at his 70-year retirement, still not knowing if he's right, but definitely still sticking with his decisions. I love it so much. I've said that about so many things this episode,
right after that scene, he looks at Carrie and he knows who she is. And then he smiles and winks, and I'm like, well, what was that about? I feel like it invalidates the whole thing about Superman regretting what he did, and
because he knew he wasn't dead.
Yeah, the wink was
like, why is he smiling and winking?
He was winking to let her know that he's in on the secret.
At the same time, though, Batman's going to reemerge eventually, and Reagan Smash is going to ask him to take down the Batman again, or someone else.
Well, the whole point is he has plausible deniability in this moment, but he's letting her know
I didn't really like that wink and the smile.
Well, no, he's not only is he in on the secret, but they also make a note of it in the cave later. Is like, are we going to be okay? It's like, so long as I don't show my face.
Yeah, he said as long as we stay below the radar.
Yeah.
So if the Sons of Batman are active, or
doesn't matter,
Robin,
because the assumption is that Batman/Bruce is dead, so that the government won't be going after him specifically.
There are questions I feel like are going to get asked, and they're going to try and track all these Sons of Batman and all them to them.
Possibly, probably, but also you could wonder whether over the course of that timeline, we're probably talking about another presidential administration by the time they gain enough notoriety for that to matter. I was also a little thrown by that. Why we skipped from the city level to the White House is very concerned with Batman. We skipped right past the county and the state level, the military. We just went straight to the president and Superman.
The White House was like, Gotham City's a hot mess. We got to take action.
I love when the president's like, oh yeah, that's not really an issue for the president. I think the governor's got a good hand on this. The governor's like, I'm going to let the city, and I'm going to let them do their thing. And the mayor is just like, yeah, I think the commissioner's got a really good handle on this. I'm going to stay out of her way. And it's just, I was like, that's like government in a nutshell. Just blame and deflect.
You know what made me really comfortable in this movie? It was the mayor's neck.
Yes.
The second mayor's neck.
Well, a lot of faces and necks in that. The animation design was kind of strange at times.
No, you were just
that's
sorry.
Chins, that's what made you uncomfortable? It was the mayor's neck, not swastika boobs?
Yes,
I was very perturbed by that.
Bruno was pretty bad as well.
I was just like, I don't understand what's happening right now.
Is Bruno's plan to resurrect? I assume it is to resurrect the third Gotham Reich, because they're using MP40 submachine guns and Walter pistols. I'm like, those are all Nazi weapons. It's like they're whatever that is, but it's just really getting into that.
Yeah,
the Fourth Reich.
Fourth Reich, yeah. It's really getting into that whole imagery and yeah.
I just did not expect to see swastika.
No.
Yeah, it was strange. Or 6'5", bulky, jacked Batman pretending to be an old Eastern European woman.
That was hilarious.
That, and then him saying "Stay out of my way" while still being in costume, pretty great.
Yes. And he has no shoes too, as he's tracking the criminals down through broken glass and metal and all this stuff.
No. Oh man, what a treat this movie is. I love it. I can watch it over and over again. I do. I want to say I like the first part better, but I really enjoy a lot of the second part. So it's hard.
I think the first is overall a better designed movie, a better full start to finish.
Sure.
But the second one just has the higher highs and the nostalgia and bringing your favorite characters in, because the mutants are new to everyone. Nobody has the same connection to them as they do the Joker and the Super.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. We didn't really touch on the Two-Face piece. That whole thing was kind of cool. I think again though, similar. It's not fully necessary except for highlighting is Batman the root of the problem, which they didn't really.
Or
focus
is
on
the
it
problem
too
that
much.
our plastic surgeons are just too good?
Wow.
We can't, nothing external will help how you feel internally. I think that was the moral of that story.
Wow.
No. I think the point was, surely my eyes are betraying me because there's no way that anyone could be that good at plastic surgery.
Well, what they did was they just jacked up his entire face and gave him an entirely new one that doesn't look like what he did before. That's the key, right? You got to just go completely new face.
Listen, body dysmorphia is a real problem. And when your face is not what you expect to see. I want to pull his face.
Harvey face. Scary face.
Bruce, I need your help. Why?
Also, I should have mentioned before, we were just talking a couple minutes ago about Batman, well, Bruce/Batman pretending to be the old lady. I think when that happened, I was like, hang on a second. To Donald, I was like, hang on a second. When did this become a Mission Impossible movie? As he pulls off the face.
Nice.
Also, I want to shout out here, we did not appreciate properly Michael McKean's job as the psychiatrist. Fantastic job by him as always.
That was great.
Despite the fact that was an utterly loathsome character.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Who I guess got his just desserts.
Best scene is him bleeding out on the desk.
Yeah. That whole scene was a mind fuck. I was like, it's funny. They almost took on like talk shows and reality TV. Frank Miller got into that issue a little bit as well because he's like, in reality, yeah, if someone like the Joker was called on to Stephen Colbert or any number of those Jimmy Fallon or whatever, they'd be the biggest show audience ever. And at the same time, we shouldn't be given a platform to this lunatic murderer, So yeah. But it's funny because that's exactly how it would be in real life, in my opinion.
Also, talking about how this comic inspired literally every single movie. Very obviously, the inspiration for the Joker movie.
Oh yeah,
that whole scene at the end.
That too, yeah.
Did either of you have access to the IMDb listing of this movie?
I'm sure I can find it.
Please look up the actor who played the voice of Alfred.
I know I was scrolling through the list yesterday, but I don't remember who played Alfred. Hang on.
This definitely took me by surprise.
Dark Knight Return.
Worth the wait.
Where's Alfred? Oh, I did see this.
I was like,
what?
Wait
a second. And then I looked at the picture and I was like, oh, okay.
I don't think so, Tim.
For anyone who's wondering, it's Michael
he died
Jackson.
this year. Oh, it's a shame.
Yeah. Also, no,
Michael Jackson.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
No love for Alfred having a stroke. Just a passable mention of it on the news.
Of that was pretty messed up.
Yeah.
That his plan, breaks his heart so badly that he kills him, and he doesn't even show remorse. Like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, Alfred died or whatever. He's just like, he died, and that was it. And I was like, damn, they're really
little hand wavy for sure. That was a bummer.
Yeah, that was actually a really dark, messed up moment, and I'm like, geez, they're not going to even mention that. They're just like tugging at our heartstrings with him dead, but they can't even give him like the poor little out for Alfred or whatever. Like,
poor
little. They even show his grave in the tombstone, or his tombstone in the funeral area. I can't think of words. I can't use words.
Cemetery.
A little tombstone next to Batman.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they don't even do that. They don't even show his...
Here lies Bruce Wayne, billionaire playboy, philanthropist, psycho boy, and then underneath it, Alfred.
Also, as we're wrapping up some stuff here, what I made a comment about it when we were watching it. It's like, wait, that's the movie that his parents died for? What was the movie that he went to?
Oh, The Mask of Zorro.
That's right. I was like, The Mask of Zorro? That's what they had to go see that resulted in his parents' death of all movies.
And his parents are unimaginably wealthy, and they crawl through like this back alley of crime-ridden city, and I'm like, they don't have their limo with private security pulled up in front of them.
I've also always kind of...
They've done... I feel like over the years, they've done enough good depictions of reasons why they would have been there that are passable. So I'm okay with it. I think what is really cool, though, is that final fight between Batman and Superman does take place in Crime Alley, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, it's called Crime Alley.
This city is so terrible. We have an actual street officially named.
Can we just focus all of the crimes here? We won't send the cops.
I mean, that was literally what the one entire season of The Wire is about.
Huh.
You would get along very well with other Brian on that. He constantly tells me to watch The Wire.
Oh, man, it's a tremendous
show. I've heard
it's
great. I just haven't gotten into it yet. But he's rewatching it now instead of watching Obi-Wan or the North.
Well, I got really into The Wire.
Neither of us has seen it yet, so.
Okay, so that's my next request for being in the Peanut Gallery is for the Northman, because I will rage for days and nights and weeks and months about how awesome that movie is.
Listen, we've had a lot of long recordings, but we've never done a week-long one.
Is that a movie?
I'll do it. I'll drink some Freedom, C4 Freedom, and ices, and I'll be good.
Ago.
I've heard the name. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's like Hamlet before Hamlet, but with
do yourself a
Vikings.
favor, rent it on Amazon, and it'll change your life forever. It's great.
Is that true?
Robert Eggers.
I feel like that's probably not true.
I mean, I don't know. I
have a feeling you're really overhyping this movie right now.
I went axe throwing immediately after seeing this movie, and I want to go to Iceland now. I mean, I wanted to go before, but now I really want.
The first axe that I've ever thrown during axe throwing was a dead center bullseye.
Nice.
And I was like, I'm done now. There's really no going anywhere from here, so I might as well hang it up.
It's all about consistency, right?
Oh, it's got a Skarsgård? Most movies have a Skarsgård, don't they?
Yeah, that man is 45, 46, and he still looks like The Rock, but slightly smaller.
Yeah.
His IMDb photo is him, top half tuxedo, bottom half tidy whities.
Yes, I've seen that photo. It's quite hysterical.
Yes. Oh, Ethan Hawke's in this too? Oh, Willem Dafoe?
Yeah, well, it's an Eggers movie, so...
I'll watch a Willem Dafoe.
It's worth a watch. It's really freaking good.
Speaking of Willem Dafoe's, we just watched a movie with Willem Dafoe the other day. That's for consumption.
Sure.
But, overall, this movie was just fantastic. The Dark Knight Returns.
Big fan.
It honestly might be tied with me for the Dark Knight, Christian Bale movie. I think that highly about it. And like I said, for an animated movie, those people who say animated movies aren't serious or they're for kids or whatever, they don't really understand that. They just see
I think that's
animation.
An old notion that isn't really said anymore, and I think
some people still believe that. I think it's
always going to be some.
I think it's going in the correct direction of saying that can't take on serious material. But I would love to have a sit-down conversation. Is Frank Miller still alive? I honestly don't know.
I also don't know.
I don't want to say anything one way or the other. And someone...
It's a $50 fine. You kill someone.
If someone wants to comment on this podcast and let me know if he's still alive. But I would love to have a sit-down meeting with him and just talk to him about what his views and why he attacks these issues that he does in the movies of like government overreach and the public debate and all those things. I'd really like to hear his...
He's still alive. He's
alive and 65.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So great. If you watch this podcast, please sit down with me, spend a few minutes talking to me about your thoughts behind this movie. And because obviously he does take on all comic books, take on real world issues with comic book characters. But this one, I thought was very interesting, especially with Batman and Superman.
Frank Miller, we know that you are a dedicated listener to Flix and a Six. So when you hear this, please reach out to us. Let us know. Debate Dominic on the show.
Well, it's not a debate. I just want to hear what he has to say.
Debate, whatever.
Perhaps we have a lot in common. I don't know. But anyone who's a fan of this show and wants to tweet this at...
there's just no way that he's on Twitter. He can't possibly.
There's no way you say he can't.
He can't possibly be on Twitter. No, just what little I know about the man. There's just no possible way he's on Twitter.
I don't know. But anyway, someone get this to his attention and please sit down and talk with me.
If I would put it this way: if I were him and I wrote this and had these feelings, there is no way in hell I would be on Twitter.
I mean, if he feels that strongly about it, maybe he wants to convince some people of a like-minded thinking. I don't know. But yeah, overall I thought the mature subjects and themes of this are fascinating. Like when the scene where Batman's talking to Superman and Superman's trying to convince him to stop doing what he's doing, he's like, you're acting like a criminal, and he's just like, well, Clark, we are criminals.
He said, you're acting like a criminal.
He's like, you have a badge and a paycheck, and you're revered and loved, and I'm not. And it's an interesting theme and idea that people are so concerned about this one dude who's active in one city and he's beating up criminals with his fists, and this other guy is a literal god with heat vision and super strength and flight and all that, and they're like loving the fact that the government just tells him what to do and he does it. I just found that fascinating that he's the only one who keeps active as a hero, where he literally burned the arm off Green Arrow, Wonder Woman and Aquaman and all them, and Hal Jordan all went back to their people, and he's the only one who gets to stay in charge. And why is that?
Well, you know how trends work. If something happens one time, it can happen everywhere. And at this rate, a couple of years from now, there will be a Batman in every city and a chicken in every pod.
Wow.
I'm mixing metaphors there. Also, yeah. I have to say that I am well and truly corrected.
Chicken legs in every pod.
Yeah. I'm well and truly corrected. Frank Miller is on Twitter. I totally got that wrong.
Nice.
Just want to get Twitter now because I have refused for a long time, but I just want to do that and just follow him. He could be my only follower.
Just create a Twitter purely to get a sit-down conversation. Even if it's across like Zoom or Skype, to talk to Frank Miller and then immediately delete Twitter.
I would be so
Mission
happy.
Accomplished, boys. We did it.
I'm not going to lie. That would make my day. But yeah,
nailed it.
I just found that interesting when you watch this movie is why is Superman the only one who gets to stay active as a hero and works for the government, but none of the other heroes can? Why is that?
Well, I'm guessing it was because they wouldn't give in to the concessions that he did. That would probably...
Because they know that they can't force him not to.
There's so many other heroes that are very powerful, though. Diana and...
Yeah, but they have Superman.
I think he's no, well, my guess would just be they may have approached all of them with the same contingencies. Do it on our terms. And they were like, I'd rather retire, actually.
Yeah. Sokovia Accords, right?
Basically. That's that's what they're hinting at,
I also got to wonder, why did Superman agree to this,
Well, that's the interesting question. It's pretty obvious why the other ones did this. Whatever the
Superman's just dying to fit in. They were like, yo, you want to sign this paper to be in our club? And he was like, hell yeah, I do. He also wants to be Batman's best friend. And Batman's like, I don't have time for your shit.
You've been a young, sexy newspaper reporter for 40 years. I'm old and I have a mustache. What do we have in common?
I also feel like they're saying something. Frank Miller's in his version is saying something profound about these other characters, or rather, he's just more enthusiastic and more positive feeling about Batman. Is that Batman's willing to sacrifice everything to get imprisoned or killed or reviled to make people's lives in Gotham better and to fight crime, but Diana and Aquaman and Hal and the Flash and all that do not believe in that because they retire. So, he's clearly a big fan of the Batman, but I just found that kind of interesting, that the other ones were willing to give it up once a little bit pressure was put on them. And he does give it up for a little bit, but he also, it's even more difficult for him because he's an old man at this point, and he's still willing to fight and die on his beliefs.
Well, it is tough to...
He didn't give it up because of the government, though. He gave up before that because of Jason.
I don't think that's what they're saying. Is that how it was in the comics? Because it doesn't seem to... That's the case in the movies.
It's hard to suss out the timeline.
Yeah, the timeline's a little funky, but it's been over 10 years because that's back when Jason died. Batman stopped when Jason died. He didn't stop because somebody made him.
Well, it sounded like, because what Superman says, he's like, you played into the mothers groups and all these different groups who are putting pressure on you to retire. Because that's what it sounds like, is that he bowed to public pressure to get out. And that, obviously, the Jason Todd thing was a contributing factor, but it sounded more like the people just turned against him, and so he wasn't interested in doing it anymore.
Well, it could have been that, they talked about, obviously, it wasn't an overnight thing. I'm sure that this protesting and legislation probably took place over the course of time. Probably during that turmoil is when Jason dies, and he's like, all right, fine, I kind of finally see where you guys are coming from. That would seem to me to be the most logical, sequence of events.
Yeah. Right on. Any other closing thoughts on this one?
Someone else go first.
Okay. I just have one thought. I really regret my joke from earlier. Swastika was right there for me, and I didn't
Wow. Dominic, what do you have? Please take us back from that.
The DCEU just butchered this material when they made Batman vs Superman. What a terrible I love animated movies. I know you want to see the big budget live action stuff. Sometimes this animated stuff is just so much better. I love this movie. I love the themes. I love the characters, the questions it has you ask, and I wish more people talked about this one as a top Batman movie, because obviously the Nolan movies and the most recent one was really good, but they need to talk about this one more about being the top echelon.
It's
Could
fine.
not
I'm
agree
sure
more.
Flashpoint will fix it all.
Stop. Stop. Nothing's happening. Flashpoint's. I've told you this already. Flashpoint is not coming out, and they're going to blame the entire downfall of the DCEU on Ezra Miller.
It's too big.
They're going to use him as. They're going to use them as the scapegoat, and that's going to be it. They've already pointed at it. The articles are already written.
Put Grant Gustin in.
Yeah, I'm all about
reshoot the scenes with Ezra Miller.
Don't even reshoot them. Just do the Talladega Nights thing where they just paste his face over it.
No, don't reshoot.
Like
don't do
Grant
anything.
Gustin as the Flash.
Don't release it because it's probably going to be horrible. Just don't do it.
I never liked Ezra Miller in the Justice League.
It's sunk cost fallacy. They're going to release
the Flash. I didn't care for him.
But they're also going to release
because
an
they're
Aquaman
just going to
movie,
shoot some recuts, and the Flashpoint's going to allow them to usher in a new Flash.
I mean, sure, but I never cared for Ezra Miller in that. I didn't care for him in the Fantastic Beasts movie. Maybe he's been good in something, but
I was fine. I was fine with them in the Flash as the Flash. I didn't really have any problem with that character. And
my issues with the character were more about the script and direction.
Yeah, exactly. I think they played the quirky Flash really well, and I do think that there's almost like I kind of wonder though. That seems very influenced by Grant Gustin's Flash, like the quirkiness, but like Grant Gustin's also got like a coolness to him, where the Ezra Miller
Huge
Flash
dork.
is just a huge dork. Yeah, it's.
I mean, Grant Gustin's clearly socially awkward in the beginning of it, and
Sure.
and all that. So
from my perspective, the only role, if you want an example of Ezra Miller being a good actor, The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Okay,
yes,
one teen type movie is not enough to convince me that he should do more stuff. Especially it was 10 years ago.
I think it was exactly 10 years ago.
I mean, that was. I actually think that it's exactly enough proof because the writing of that movie is really good, whereas they're just given crap to work with in these other two things that just happen to be mainstream.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
Well, that's all for this week's episode of Flix of the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinthesix@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Al Bielsi.
I'm the Peanut Gallery, and please send this to Robert Miller. Frank Miller.
Robert Miller.
Sorry. I just spoke with Robert Miller the other day, but anyways, literally. But yeah, please someone tweet this at Frank Miller. Frank, I'm sorry, please. Please, let's have a Zoom call about this.
For coming out.